Chapter 663. At the academy, all the teachers were already on standby at dawn. Li Zixuan didn't return to Chang'an last night. Instead, he stayed in Yunshan's courtyard. Early in the morning, he left his wife's warmth and came to Yanhuang College. In fact, the teachers of the academy were almost ready. However, Li Zixuan was afraid that something they couldn't handle would happen, so he came so early. Seeing that it was still early, Li Zixuan invited Yan Silu, Li Gang, and Mo Huai to have breakfast together in the academy's cafeteria. As for Wang Ji, the old man had just moved his luggage from his brother's house to the academy after the meeting yesterday afternoon. He was sleeping in the dormitory now. As early as 2 days ago, the academy's cafeteria had officially started operating. The chefs that were invited had all been trained by the Drunken Immortal House, so their skills were naturally excellent. Moreover, the style of cooking had also been greatly influenced by Li Zixuan. The four of them sat together and ate breakfast: steamed buns, porridge, and salted vegetables. Li Zixuan asked at this time, "Mr. Yan, have the test papers been transported here?" Yan Silu replied, "Yes, the Marquis escorted them here overnight. They are now locked in the Academy's secret room. That place uses the Mo family's Tianji lock. Only Mr. Mo has the key to open it." Li Zixuan was relieved when he heard this. Then, he asked again, "Then, have the invigilators been assigned to each examination room?" Yan Silu nodded and said, "Yes, everything has been assigned. There are a total of 52 examination rooms, and there will be invigilators in each examination room." Li Zixuan said with a smile, "Fortunately, the academy was built on a large scale. Otherwise, our academy wouldn't be able to bear this examination alone." Li Gang slurped 2 mouthfuls of porridge, and said with a smile, "Only you have the guts to build an academy on such a large scale for the first time. Judging from the current size of the academy, it won't be enough even if more than 2,000 examinees are admitted." Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "You can't say that. Yanhuang College's students study for at least 3 years, and the longest is 6 years. There will be students from other grades after that. How can you recruit so many people at once?" Li Gang suddenly understood and said, "Yo! That's true. Haha. Speaking of which, the food in this academy is really unique. This old man may have to eat and drink here in the future." Haha. This Yan wholeheartedly agrees with Brother Li's words. Yes, the food of the academy is indeed delicious. Yan Silu and Mo Huai agreed in agreement. Li Zixuan laughed and said, "Haha. If the 3 of you like it, you can eat it at Yanhuang College for the rest of your lives." That's exactly what I was thinking. At 6:30 a.m., the first batch of examinees arrived at Yanhuang College. However, there was still more than an hour before the start of the exam, so they naturally couldn't enter the academy. They could only sit on the grass in front of the academy and wait for the academy to let the examinees in. Haha. Hu Guo, Iron Egg, what a coincidence to meet the 2 of you again. As time passed, more and more students arrived at the academy. Sun Zifan had just arrived and saw 2 familiar figures sitting on the grass in front of him. He quickly went forward and greeted them. "Hello, Brother Zifan," Hu Guo said with a smile. "Hee, looks like Zifan's expression means that he's determined to pass this exam, right?" Iron Egg joked with a smile. Sun Zifan's face turned red. He liked to show off in front of strangers, but in front of a friend like Iron Egg, he didn't need to show off. He said unhappily, "No matter how determined I am, can I be more determined than Iron Egg? You're Mr. Li's core disciple." Speaking of this, he suddenly leaned in front of Iron Egg, then lowered his voice and said, "Iron Egg, tell me honestly, did Mr. Li leak a few exam questions to you? With our relationship, you have to take care of me." Iron Egg didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took 2 steps back to keep a distance from Sun Zifan and said, "Brother Zifan, don't talk nonsense. Master is definitely not the kind of person you said he was. Besides, I've been busy with martial arts recently and haven't spent much time on my studies. Sun Zifen widened his eyes and said in surprise, Iron Egg, you actually know martial arts. That's amazing, amazing. In the future, if I'm bullied at the academy, you have to help me. On the side, who scratched his head in puzzlement and thought, Brother Zifen clearly said he would protect me yesterday. Why is he asking Iron Egg now? Doesn't this mean that Iron Egg is even more powerful? Seeing that Sun Zifen was actually so shameless, Iron Egg could only wave his hand and say, as classmates, of course we have to take care of each other. Brother Zifen, don't worry. Sun Zifen laughed and said, Ha ha. Good, good, good. You're so straightforward. Ching Chumo, you're finally here. You didn't handle the matter yesterday too well. You made so many of your classmates wait for you. At 7:30 in the morning, Yen Silla looked at the sky and then said to Li Zixuan, Yamacho, it's almost time. Li Zixuan nodded and said, That's good. Mo Zhong, Mo Yun, open the door and welcome the candidates. The two cupped their hands and went to open the door of the academy. It's open, let's go in. It's finally open. Ha ha. Chu Mo, let's go, we're all in the 7th examination hall. I guess you don't know where it is? It's okay, I'll take you there. But after the exam, you have to treat me to a big meal. Ching Chumo. When the candidates entered the academy, they didn't have to go through an extremely detailed body search like the imperial examination. Firstly, it wasn't necessary, and secondly, there were too many candidates. During the imperial examination, everyone would have a special examination booth, which gave the candidates a lot of room to cheat. However, Yanwang College was different. With more than 50 people in one examination hall, everything in the hall was clear at a glance. If anyone cheated, the teachers above would immediately notice. Half an hour later, all the candidates gathered outside the academy entered Yanwang College and found their examination hall. Li Zixuan thought for a while and said, It's time for the exam, close the door. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun quickly did as they were told. The doors of the academy slowly began to close, which meant that the exam had officially begun. Hey! Wait! There's one more! Li Zixuan couldn't help but look in the direction of the voice and saw that the person who spoke was Di Zhishuan, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Chapter 664. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Ouch. Don't close the door, let me in. I'm also here to take the exam. The middle-aged man who pulled Di Zhishuan to Yunshan in a handcart was kind enough to send Di Zhishuan directly to the top of Yunshan. Unexpectedly, Yanwang College was about to close the door, so Di Zhishuan hurriedly jumped off the cart and shouted. However, his right foot couldn't bear such an impact. He immediately screamed, but he didn't forget to shout in the direction of the gate of the college. Hey! Little Langjun, be careful. Let me help you over. Perhaps after seeing that Di Zhishuan was really a candidate, the middle-aged man's attitude became more respectful. Seeing that Di Zhishuan was a little unstable, he quickly put down the reins and came over to support him. Thank you, Brother Han. On the way here, Di Zhishuan had already learned about the middle-aged man. His surname was Han, and because he was the 7th child in his family, others often called him Han Laochi. Di Zhishuan thanked him in a low voice, then looked firmly at the gate of the college, and continued to walk there. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun also noticed Di Zhishuan, but after going through so many things, they now obeyed Li Zixuan. Therefore, Mo Zhong stepped forward and said loudly, Yanwang College's exam has begun. Little Langjun, you're late. Please go back. Hey! Don't. It wasn't easy for me to sneak out of my house. Besides, the exam hasn't officially started yet, right? Brother, please let me in. Di Zhishuan came closer and said hurriedly. Suddenly, he saw Li Zixuan behind the gate and immediately shouted excitedly, Hey! Little Langjun, it's me. It's me. Do you know this big brother guarding the gate? If you do, please help me talk to him. He had speculated before that Li Zixuan's identity must be either rich or noble, so after seeing Li Zixuan, a glimmer of hope rose in his heart. Emo Zhong, let him in. Li Zixuan smiled and said softly. Yes, Yamacho. Emo Zhong turned around and cupped his hands. Then, he said to Di Zhixuan, You can go in now, Lang Jun. Then, when he saw that Di Zhixuan had difficulty walking, he stepped forward to replace Han Laoqi and helped Di Zhixuan into the academy. Di Zhixuan was happy at first, but then he was shocked. He walked up to Li Zixuan and said with his eyes wide open, Little brother, you are a Yamacho from Yanhuang College? Li Zixuan smiled and replied, That's right. Long time no see, brother Di. So, little brother, you are Li Zixuan? When Di Zhixuan heard Li Zixuan admit it, he was finally completely dumbfounded. He had speculated that Li Zixuan might be the descendant of a high-ranking official in the imperial court and had an extraordinary identity. However, he had never expected that the little brother he met by chance would be Li Zixuan, who was also a Yamacho from Yanhuang College. Li Zixuan found it funny and said, Yes, what's wrong? Brother Di, aren't you in a hurry to take the exam? Di Zhixuan suddenly remembered the important matter and hurriedly said, Oh, right. I'm going to take the exam first. Little brother, oh no, it should be Yamacho. Thank you so much this time. After saying that, he hurriedly turned around to enter the examination hall. However, he stopped after taking 2 steps. He turned around and said awkwardly, Cough, cough. I had something to do yesterday and couldn't leave, so I didn't get the exam number. Yamacho, which room should I take the exam in? There were hundreds of small rooms in the Guanghua building in front of him. If he didn't ask clearly, he wouldn't be able to find it even if he searched for the whole morning. Li Zixuan looked at Di Zhixuan's injured right foot thoughtfully and said, Emo Zhong, help brother Di to the medical hall to see a doctor first. If his foot isn't treated in time, it will be easy for him to become disabled. Di Zhixuan hurriedly waved his hand and said, No need. I'll see a doctor myself after the exam. Yamacho, tell me where to take the exam first. Emo Zhong glanced at Di Zhixuan's injured ankle and looked up at Li Zixuan. Yamacho, this little Longjuan's foot must have been accidentally sprained. I happen to know some massage technique. Why don't I give him a massage and relieve the pain in a moment? He should be fine after he goes back and applies some medicine. Li Zixuan looked at Emo Zhong in surprise and nodded. Okay. Emo Zhong, help brother Di treat his foot first. Emo Yun, go find Mr. Yen and get the exam number. Brother Di, you can treat his foot first. The 2 brothers, Emo Zhong and Emo Yun, naturally accepted the order. Although Di Zhixuan felt that it was a waste of time, he had to wait for Emo Yun to get the examination number before he could take the examination. Therefore, he could only agree and said, Thank you, Mountain Head, thank you, brother Emo. A moment later, Emo Yun came back with the exam number plate. Emo Zhong had just finished massaging Di Zhixuan's ankle. Di Zhixuan got down to feel it and found that the piercing pain in his ankle had disappeared. He said happily, it doesn't hurt anymore. Brother Emo, you're really good. Thank you. Li Zixuan glanced at the exam number and smiled. Brother Di, go quickly. You're in exam room 51. I'll ask someone to take you there. Thank you. Di Zhixuan took the exam number and thanked him with cupped fists. Then, he was led by a follower of the school of Mo to the resplendent building. Li Zixuan looked at his back and smiled inexplicably. This unlucky kid actually ran away from home? I wonder what Secretary D will think when he finds out. At the same time, it also shows that there are still many people who look down on engineering. After meeting Di Zhixuan for the first time, Li Zixuan deliberately collected information about Di Zhixuan's father, Di Xiaoxiu. Now that he had a basic understanding of the Di family, he sighed. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun looked at each other. They did not understand what Li Zishuan meant. Young Master D, this is exam room 51. You can go in by yourself, the follower of the school of Mo said to Di Zhishuan when they arrived at a classroom on the west side of the 4th floor. Di Zhishuan glanced inside and nodded. Okay, thank you. I'll go in by myself. The invigilator of exam room 51 was Assistant Lecturer Mao. He was about to hand out the test papers when he saw another student at the door. The student said, "I'm sorry, sir. I was injured on the way here. That's why I'm here." Assistant Lecturer Mao was about to say something when he saw a middle-aged man in a black robe winking at him. It was the follower of the school of Mo who had just escorted Di Zhishuan here. Assistant Lecturer Mao pondered for a moment and understood what was going on. He pointed at a seat behind him and said, "Okay, you can sit there." Then, he picked up the test papers and said while handing them out, "I'll start handing out the test papers now. Please remember what I told you just now. If anyone cheats, they will be disqualified immediately and will never be able to take Yanhuang College's entrance exam again. Please don't play tricks." Chapter 665. In fact, except for Di Zhishuan, who didn't have time to look around, all the candidates who took the exam today were shocked by the scene inside the Guanghua building after entering the classroom. The floor was as smooth as a mirror, making people feel as if they were in a dream. The windows made of large pieces of glass made the inside of the building as bright as day no matter how winding and crisscrossing it was. The spacious and bright classroom, the neatly arranged tables and chairs, and the pure color and sharp edges of the blackboard made all the students have a further understanding of the luxury of Yanhuang College. At the same time, their determination to enter Yanhuang College became firmer. If they couldn't study in such a professional and high-end college in their lifetime, wouldn't it be a great regret in their lives? So after receiving the test papers, almost everyone took a deep breath and then began to answer the questions very seriously. The first question was in line with the rules. Empty and empty, the people can't find a name. Towering, it has success, it has an article. This sentence was taken from the Analects of Confucius. It was a very famous paragraph in which Confucius praised Yao. The general idea was that Yao was so great that people couldn't find a word to describe his praise. His achievements were so outstanding that they were like the light of the sun shining in all directions. Generally, when the candidates answered the questions, they only needed to praise the great achievements of the ancient sages, and then praise the current emperor's literary and martial virtues, express their loyalty, and say that they had the ambition to become the pillar of the country, to share the worries of the emperor, and so on, to get a high score. It could be said that this was a relatively open question, and also a question with a very clear political position. Li Gang's questions were really stable. At least, Li Erwi liked it very much. The second question was, water, fire, metal, wood, earth, and valley are the only things to cultivate. This question was slightly more difficult than the first one. This sentence came from the great Umo of the Great Book of History. Coincidentally, Kong Ingda also explained this sentence. Water can irrigate, fire can cook, metal can cut, wood can grow, earth can reproduce, and valley can raise. Therefore, these 6 things were called the 6 residences, which were used by nature to raise all living things. As the saying goes, virtue is only good governance, and governance is to raise the people. The virtue of the sage was reflected in dealing with government affairs well, and arranging things like water, fire, metal, wood, earth, and valley was called only cultivation, which could make the people live and work in peace. As long as the meaning was expressed clearly and a few classic sentences of Mencius about the way of the king, the score wouldn't be low. The third question, unlike some examiners in the Qing dynasty, who tried their best to cut some complete sentences or put a few sentences together to deliberately make things difficult for the candidates, the questions set of the questions set by Li and Yen Sila were, on the whole, the questions set of the standard Confucian classics questions and the questions. The questions were standard questions and difficult. But some people were the exception. For example, Li Huiran. Oh no, Li Huiran was better. He could more or less tell the origin of some sentences, and then talk nonsense. But Qing Chumo was completely clueless. He didn't know where one of the 12 Confucian classics questions came from, let alone the meaning of the question. So after gritting his teeth for a while, he resolutely gave up on the Confucian classics part and went straight to the next part of the questions. There were many people in the same situation as him, such as Iron Egg and Hu Zhen, who had never learned the 4 books and 5 classics. They were basically people who had learned mathematics halfway. So for the 4 books and 5 classics they were basically at the same level as Qing Chumo. Fortunately, the Confucian classics only accounted for 30% of the total score of the whole entrance exam. As long as they got high marks in the other parts, they also had a great chance of passing the exam. But the other parts of the questions were not simple, at least not as simple as they seemed on the surface. In the moral test part, there are no good or bad options in the following questions. You just need to choose the option that is most consistent with your actual situation. Your answers are only for testing and research purposes. Please feel free to answer. What does this mean? Could it be that this so-called moral test part is a freebie question for everyone? No matter what I choose, it will be correct? When Qing Chumo saw this strange question, he was surprised. Normal people would have the same thoughts as him when they saw this kind of question. However, as a former student of the mathematics school and a close friend who knew Li Zixuan's character very well, Qing Chumo became witty this time. That's not right. Looking at the style of these questions, only Xiao Xian would come up with this kind of question. But if these questions are really freebies, then what's the point of Xiao Xian coming up with these questions? This kid must be lying. Is he trying to trick me? No way. The score for each option is definitely different. I have to choose carefully. It just so happens that I don't have to do those stupid questions in front of me. I have plenty of time. It had to be said that at this critical moment, Qing Chumo's random thought had completely saved him. It could also be said that his previous studies in the mathematics school and his understanding of Li Zixuan's character had saved him. This was because the so-called, there are no good or bad options in the various options, was a huge trap that Li Zixuan had dug for all the candidates. It just depended on how many people jumped into it. In fact, this kind of question often appeared in various modern psychological tests, personality tests, and market research questionnaires. If you really thought that there were no good or bad options in the various options and blindly chose, then it could only prove that you were broken. You might even be labeled as crazy. In Li Zixuan's previous life, when he was in university, he met such a naive and cute classmate. At the beginning of school, the school routinely asked all the students to fill in a psychological test paper. One of the students in his class saw that there was no right or wrong option in the question, so he only took a minute to hand in the paper. As a result, the school arranged for the child to receive psychological counseling for a semester because the teachers determined that the child had severe depression based on his test results. Other than Qing Chumo, it could be said that the former students of the mathematics school had a trace of vigilance in their hearts after experiencing Li Zixuan's various trashy questions. After all, after being tricked by the same person so many times, one would have a certain understanding of the person's trick. Therefore, when they saw the questions, their mental reactions were almost the same as Qing Chumo's. They all reined in at the most crucial moment. Of course, the final test results also proved that it was precisely because they reined in at the most crucial moment that they widened the gap with the other candidates in this part of the question. Chapter 666. At this time, the whole exam had only been going on for less than a quarter of an hour. The examinees who could do the morality part were basically those who had given up on the classics part. Some of them were former students of the School of Mathematics and Mathematics. Of course, there were also people from other states and counties. This was because Ching Chumo from the School of Mathematics and Mathematics was not the only one who didn't know about classic. However, this part of the exam seemed simple, but it was full of traps. The first question: which city do you think you would prefer to live in? A. Cheongzhou B. Xiangzhou C. Bingzhou D. Luoyang E. Chang'an. The second question: if you could be one of the following creatures, which one would you like to be? A. Cat B. Horse C. Elephant D. Monkey E. Dog F. Tiger. This kind of question had never appeared in the Tang Empire. It made the examinees confused. Many of them were confused and thought, these choices don't seem to be different. It seems that you can choose anything. Is it really like the question said? There is no right or wrong choice for each choice. You can choose anything? It was not that these students were incompetent, but Li Zixuan was too cunning. He gave everyone a psychological misdirection at the beginning. A master's intention of these questions should be to test the examinee's character. Then what kind of character does Yanhuang College need? I think as long as I can figure this out, then these questions will definitely be able to get a high score. Iron Egg thought silently in his heart as he bit the end of his pen. After a while, his eyes lit up and he said excitedly, I understand. The first question must be Chang'an. Chang'an is full of talents. Although there is more pressure here, there are more opportunities and more challenges to one's ability. Yanhuang College definitely needs such students who are not afraid of difficulties and face them head-on. As for the second question, it's even simpler. Whether it's a person or something else, they must be the most powerful existence. How can they just be a cat or a dog? Of course, I'll choose a tiger. After finding out the purpose of Li Zixuan's questions, Iron Egg did this part of the questions smoothly without any pause. Therefore, he only used an hour to finish these 20 multiple-choice questions. At this moment, there were still more than 2 hours before the end of the exam, so Iron Egg was completely depressed. On the other side, Ching Chumo seemed to have figured out something. He didn't think as much as the Iron Egg. Anyway, he would choose whichever option was awesome, domineering, and most similar to Li Zixuan's personality. Based on these principles, he was able to do it smoothly. He finished almost at the same time as the Iron Egg. However, the examinees from the other states and counties were not as lucky as them. Many of them had chosen answer A and were debating whether or not answer B was more appropriate. Most of the time, once they got tangled up, the original correct answer would be changed into a wrong answer. Moreover, the process of solving the question would be bumpy, which would greatly affect the speed of solving the question. Perhaps some people would say that this kind of question was unfair to the examinees from other places, but was it really unfair? On the one hand, the students from the School of Mathematics had never come across this kind of question. Ching Chumo, Iron Egg, and the others completely relied on their own comprehension to figure out the trick to solving the question. On the other hand, at the beginning of the question, Li Zixuan had explained that the examinees should choose according to their own real situation. If there were examinees who had strong willpower, a calm mind, a strong desire to lead, a strong ambition, and a personality that wouldn't give up until they achieved their goals, then they could fill in the question according to their real thoughts and get a high score. The purpose of Li Zixuan's set of questions was to select a group of students with good temperament for Yanhuang College. How was it unfair? Moreover, what in the world could be absolutely fair? It was undeniable that Ching Chumo, Iron Egg, and the others were opportunistic because they might not be completely in line with this kind of personality. However, sometimes opportunism and improvisation were also a kind of personal ability. They were opportunistic within the rules, so who could say anything? Oh, hand in the paper. Let's not waste time. When there were only 2 hours left before the exam, Iron Egg stood up resolutely, walked to the podium, handed the paper to the invigilator, and left the classroom. Most of the students from the School of Mathematics were in the 7th examination room. After seeing Iron Egg handing in his paper, Ching Chumo also handed in his paper in advance. He felt that he wouldn't be able to solve the Confucian Classics section even if he was given another year. It was better to hand it in early and go home for lunch. After all, the mathematics exam in the afternoon was the most important one for him. Yes, you heard it right. Mathematics was now Ching Chumo's best subject. After Ching Chumo, some students also handed in their papers one after another. There were Wang Meng, Yu Dongkai, Kong Chuansuan, Song Tianyu, Jiang Wenchang, Bai Hongyuan, and other second-generation officials from the School of Mathematics. There were also a few students from other provinces and counties. It seemed that these people were not proficient in Confucian Classic. As for Li Tai, Meng Wenhao, Ke Shiqing, Xing Ziren, and other top students in the School of Mathematics, they were not as uncultured as Ching Chumo. Therefore, at this time they had just finished the moral character section. Cough cough. It had to be said that Sun Zifan, this little fatty, under the influence of his father who was the #1 scholar, knew a thing or two about Confucian classics. At the very least, out of the 12 Confucian classics questions, there were 7 or 8 that he knew the answers to. Of these 7 or 8 questions, at least 4 of them he knew how to answer. Virgo, you brat, why are you out so soon? Li Zishuan, who had just finished patrolling the various examination rooms, saw Ching Chumo's back as soon as he went downstairs. It seemed that this guy was preparing to leave the school and go home. He hurriedly called out to Ching Chumo and said. Ching Chumo stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Li Zishuan. He said in a bad mood, "If I don't come out so soon, do you think I'll wait for the new year inside? It's not like you don't know that I, old Ching, am not good at those things, right?" Li Zishuan walked over at this time and asked with a smile, "So you're saying that you're very good at the second half of the moral character test?" Ching Chumo narrowed his eyes and laughed very proudly. He said, "Hey, Xiaoxian, you must think that those questions of yours can stump me, right? Ha ha. Let me tell you, there's no way this time. Ha ha ha, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. I have to go home and recharge my energy. This afternoon is the subject I'm best at. This time, I'll definitely be able to get into Yanwang College." After saying that, this guy waved his hand and disappeared in a flash. Li Zishuan was stunned for a while. He didn't know what medicine this guy took and where he got his confidence from. Moreover, because of Ching Chumo, even if this time Ching Chumo didn't do well in the exam, Li Zishuan would use special means to recruit him into the school. Now it seemed that he could save this step. Ching Chumo, who thought that he had jumped out of Li Zishuan's trap, did not know that he had fallen into another trap of Li Zishuan's. Chapter 667. Including Li Zishuan, there were a total of 77 teachers in the Yanhuang Academy. There were also 13 teachers, 11 followers of the school of Mo, plus Mo Zhong and Mo Yun, who were in charge of the academy's security and daily chores. Other than the 52 teachers who were supposed to invigilate the exam, the rest of the teachers were assigned as volunteers to deal with any unexpected situations that might arise at any time. It was close to noon, less than an hour before the end of the exam. Suddenly, a young teacher hurriedly found Li Zishuan and said, "Mountain leader, it's not good. Di Xiaoxiu, Minister Di, has come to the mountain gate. He said he's here to take his son back. He wants us to open the gate quickly." Li Zishuan had come to Li Gang's office to chat after the exam. When they were talking about the morality test, the young teacher came over. Li Zishuan's expression changed slightly, and a trace of anger welled up in his heart. "Humph! Isn't this Di Chang going too far? What a disgrace to Yanhuang College." Li Gang stroked his beard and nodded in agreement. "Yes, it's a little overboard. He can settle his own family matters behind closed doors when he's back home, but it's too ungentlemanly to cause a ruckus here. This old man will go with you." Li Zishuan nodded. "Okay, I'll have to trouble you, sir. The two left Guanghua Building and went all the way to the gate of the college. They saw an old man in black with two servants, who were staring at the two followers of the School of Mo at the gate. "Let me in. I'm just taking my son back. I won't affect anyone else." "I'm sorry, Di-chong. Yamacho has a rule that no one is allowed to enter the college during the exam period." "Bastard! Could it be that this old man is also an idler?" "This, Secretary D, please don't misunderstand. I'm not targeting you. What I mean is that those who don't belong to Yanhuang College, those who have nothing to do with the exam, and those who will affect the exam are called miscellaneous people." Li Zishuan walked over quickly. The two followers of the School of Mo at the gate heaved a sigh of relief, as if they had just been pardoned. They had lived in a harsh place for a long time and had no experience in dealing with important people like Di Xiaoxiu. They had almost said the wrong thing and escalated the conflict. "Li Zhanshe." Di Xiaoxiu squinted his eyes and stood with his hands behind his back. He said in a clear voice, "Li Zhanshe, when you founded Yanhuang College, this old man has never raised any objections. However, this old man hopes that the younger generation in my family will become an official. Today, this old man's fifth son sneaked away from home and came here to take the entrance exam. Therefore, I hope that Li Zhanshe can give this old man a convenience and let this old man kidnap that unfilial son and bring him back." Overbearing, Di Xiaoxiu was being overbearing. Li Zishuan did not back down. He looked straight at Di Xiaoxiu and said with an unfriendly expression, "Secretary D, I don't care how you teach your son and how you throw your weight around at home. However, this is Yanhuang College. Right now, there are more than 2,000 students studying hard for their future. How can I ruin the future of the other students for the sake of your family?" Di Xiaoxiu was furious. He pointed at Li Zishuan and said, "Humph. Good boy, you're getting more and more arrogant. This old man is just... Ha. Secretary D, little Xian is just stating facts. Why do you have to be so angry?" Li Gang walked over at this time. He looked at Di Xiaoxiu and said with emotion, "You and I are both old men who have been officials in the imperial court for many years. You should be more patient with the younger generation. You should be less angry." Di Xiaoxiu's pupils shrank. He cupped his hands at Li Gang and said, "So old Mr. Li is also here. Forget it, this old man was too impetuous just now. I didn't think about your Yanhuang College. This old man will wait outside until that unfilial son comes out after the exam." Li Gang's seniority was too great. Looking at all the civil and military officials in the imperial court, not many people would not give him face. Di Xiaoxiu, of course, could not do that. Therefore, seeing that Li Gang was here, Di Xiaoxiu decisively took a step back. "That's right. You and Xiao Xian are both officials in the imperial court. Why do you have to bear a grudge over such a small matter?" Li Gang nodded with satisfaction and smiled while stroking his beard. Li Zishuan was somewhat dissatisfied. He frowned and said to Di Xiaoxiu, "Secretary D, are you going to bring your son home today?" Di Xiaoxiu raised his head and said, "Of course. Not only that, even if he passes this time, this old man will not let him come to Yanhuang College." The smile on Li Gang's face suddenly froze. Li Zishuan's face was even more furious. Humiliation. This was a great humiliation to Yanhuang Academy and Gong Shui. "Secretary D, you have a great prejudice against my engineering," Li Zishuan asked with a gloomy face. Di Xiaoxiu said, "This old man is just speaking the truth. I'm not prejudiced. As for engineering, this old man personally does not think highly of it. Running a country and managing a family requires Confucianism." Li Zishuan sneered and said, "Why? Secretary D, do you still think that engineering is a miscellaneous subject?" Di Xiaoxiu said matter-of-factly, "Isn't it? Of all the learning in the world, only Confucianism is orthodox. Li Zhanshe, you've been traveling around the world with an expert since young. I'm sure you've never been influenced by Confucianism. That's why you can't feel the charm of Confucianism. However, this old man believes that you will feel it one day. This old man was secretly looking down on Li Zixuan for being uncultured. Li Zixuan's eyes were burning with anger. He said angrily, "The president of Yanhuang College is the current emperor. Secretary D, you still say that engineering is a miscellaneous subject. What do you think of His Majesty?" "That's right. Minister D, what position do you place me in by saying this?" Just as Li Zixuan finished speaking, a cold voice came from outside the door. When everyone heard the voice clearly, they were all shocked. Because Li Er had come. He had come at this critical and sensitive time. His arrival had tipped the scales of victory in Li Zixuan's favor. "Greetings, Your Majesty." After the shock, everyone bowed to Li Er, who was dressed in casual clothes. Li Zixuan arranged for someone to open the door and followed suit. "Let's go in first." Li Er waved his hand and said to Li Zixuan. The group of people entered the meeting room of Guanghua Building. After they were seated, Li Er asked again. "Dear Secretary D, this old man asked you a question. You said that engineering is a miscellaneous subject. What do you think of me, the president of Yanhuang College?" Even a fool could see the anger in Li Er's eyes. After all, Li Er had given a lot of support to Yanhuang College. Di Xiaoshu's face turned pale when he heard this. He did not know how to answer. Chapter 668. After the morning court session, Li Er remembered that Yanhuang College was holding an entrance exam. Ever since he, Zhang Sun, Yang Fei, and their children visited Yanhuang College after its completion, he was shocked. At the same time, he was looking forward to the future of Yanhuang College. Li Er reckoned that the examination over there was not over yet. Thus, on a whim, he decided to go to Yanhuang Academy to take a look. Who knew that as soon as he climbed up the cloud mountain, he would hear the conversation between Di Xiaoshu and Li Zixuan. Li Er, who was originally full of anticipation, suddenly felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over his heart. "Your Majesty, I was impatient for my son and spoke indiscreetly. Please forgive me, Your Majesty." In all of the Great Tang, only a few people dared to directly confront the enraged Li Er. It was clear that Di Xiaoshu was not one of them. Sensing Li Er's aggressive gaze and the powerful pressure radiating from his body, Di Xiaoshu hesitated for a moment before bowing and begging for forgiveness. "Humph. Impatient for your son?" Li Er was still a little dissatisfied. He snorted and said, "Do you mean that Yanhuang College is a tiger's den? Or is it a place of corruption? Why are you in such a hurry to take your son away from here?" This was not a question that would give him free mark. It was a question that would kill him. Di Xiaoshu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He didn't know how to answer and could only say, "I dare not." Bam! Li Er finally exploded. He slammed the table, stood up and said angrily, "You dare not? But you've already done it. Why not? I've already said in the court that engineering is not a miscellaneous study. As long as it's useful to the Tang Empire and can make the Tang Empire stronger, I'm willing to accept it. But there are always some people who ignore the interests of the country, the court, my repeated orders, and the millions of people of the Tang Empire because of their prejudice. What are you guys up to? You must know that there is a country before there is Confucianism and engineering. If the Great Tang is weak and falls into the hands of the foreign race, where can Confucianism spread to? Don't tell me you want to be the dog of the foreign race that enslaves us Han people? I became the dean of Yanhuang College in order to make you give up your prejudice. But I didn't expect that even so, some people still think that engineering is a miscellaneous subject. Very good. Di Xiaoshu, you have to know that you are my minister before you are a disciple of the Confucian sect." At the end of his speech, Li Er was so angry that he started laughing. His angry voice even echoed in the meeting room. When the guards outside felt Li Er's anger, they couldn't help but straighten their backs and widen their eyes, afraid that someone would barge in at this time. And Di Xiaoxiu, who was facing Li Er's anger, felt even more pressure. He quickly bowed and said sorrowfully, "I'm afraid, Your Majesty, please calm down." Li Zishuan secretly applauded when he heard this, especially when Li Er said, "You must know that there is a country before there is Confucianism and engineering. If the great Tang is weak and falls into the hands of the foreign race, where can Confucianism spread to? Don't tell me you want to be the dog of the foreign race that enslaves us Han people?" In his previous life, he read a post that talked about the performance of the descendants of Confucius when the country was on the brink of death. At that time, he was so angry that he cursed out loud. The content of the post was roughly as follows. During the coup of Jinkong in the southern Song dynasty, the Jin kingdom invaded the Song dynasty. Gaozong of the southern Song dynasty, the king of Kong, Zhao Su, fled to the south. The 48th Duke of Yenxing, Kong Duanyo, abandoned his ancestral temple and fled to the south in the name of paying respects to the emperor. In 1252 AD, the 50th Duke of Yenxing, Kong Yuantsua, passed away. At this time, the Mongol nobles ruled the Central Plains. At this time, the descendants of Confucius did not lead the people to serve the country with loyalty. Instead, they fought to flatter their new master, Kublai Khan. It was said that at that time, Kong Yuantsua's sons and nephews all ran to Kublai Khan to fight for the title of Duke of Yenxing. When he saw the ugliness of the descendants of Confucius, Kublai Khan laughed and replied, "All of you, go back and study hard. If you have talent, I will give you the title of an official." 400 years later, the Manchurian Qing entered the pass, and Aizen Joro Fulin ascended the throne in Beijing. The 64th Duke of Yenxing, Kong Yenji, who was conferred the title by Emperor Chongzhen, immediately submitted a memorial to Emperor Xuanzhi the next day. He also flattered the Manchu Qing monarch in the first entry essay, bearing the heavens and imperial supremacy, subduing the people with virtue. The six universe shared the divine sovereign, the eight wastelands salty song holy emperor, the mountains and rivers and the sun and the moon share the splendor, the nation's co-ruler Han Bingyong, and the nation's co-ruler Han Bingyong. He also claimed in fear and trepidation that your subject is a Confucian scholar, Zhang Jian is insignificant. I have received the great kindness of the previous generations. Today I celebrate the prosperity of the new dynasty. I look forward to learning. I fear to fall behind, and so on. This kind of servile attitude was simply disgusting. Therefore, throughout history, whenever foreign invaders invaded on a large scale, almost none of the descendants of the Holy Gate could stand up and organize the people to fight against the foreign invaders. On the contrary, they always immediately surrendered to the foreign invaders and eagerly asked the foreign invaders to continue their title of Duke of Yenxing. The weakness in the bones of Confucianism was obvious. Perhaps Li Er's words just now were unintentional, but it just so happened to predict the state of Confucianism 1,000 years later. At that time, the disciples of Confucianism would really become the dogs of the foreign race who enslaved the Han people. Of course, this kind of slightly rebellious words, only Li Er dared to say it. No one after Li Er dared to say it directly. One reason was that at this time, Confucianism had not developed to the point where it could completely control the political situation of the imperial court. Another reason was that Li Er was a strong ruler who could rule the country with both literary and martial arts. He had absolute control over the country. I know you are not convinced in your heart. Then I will tell you one more thing. Not long from now, I plan to implement Li Zishuan's new mathematics in the entire Tang dynasty. At that time, all the local government and yamen will have to use the numbers and calculation methods in the new mathematics. After Li Er calmed himself down, he looked at Di Xiaoxiu and said lightly. Di Xiaoxiu was shocked and wanted to say something, but he forced himself to hold it back. Seeing this, Li Er said meaningfully, Beloved official D, you must think that my actions are inappropriate? Although I am biased towards engineering, I will not ignore the interests of the country. The previous Imperial College mathematics Dr. Liu told me not long ago that if we fully implement mathematics in the Tang Dynasty, not only the Ministry of Civil Affairs, but even the household officials and granary officials of the prefectures and counties will be able to calculate at least 5 times faster, and their accuracy will increase by several times. Beloved official D, do you know how much this will reduce the expenses of the Tang Dynasty? Chapter 669. I don't know. Di Xiaoxu was sweating profusely as he bowed. Li Er squinted his eyes and snorted. Of course you don't know. Every year when the imperial court collects taxes from the local governments, there are always some crafty people who hire people to falsify the accounts to deceive the officials. If we can really implement the new mathematics on a large scale, our Tang Empire will have a surplus of 100,000 strings of cash every year. Do you know how many people can be saved with this amount of cash? Li Zishuan's heart thumped. He truly hadn't expected Li Erui to suddenly decide to promote his new mathematics on a large scale. Although the new mathematics truly was beneficial to the daily work of the central and local finance departments, it was still very difficult to promote it throughout the country, as very few people were willing to learn it. Li Er continued, previously, I have already ordered the implementation of Li Zishuan's pinyin. Judging from the reaction of the people in the past few months, the implementation has been very effective. At least now, many children can read the Tang Dynasty dictionary to others. Now, I am going to implement his new mathematics. Dear Minister D, do you still dare to say that engineering is a miscellaneous study and a useless study? Seeing that Li Er was so supportive of Li Zishuan, Di Xiaoxu didn't dare to be as arrogant as before. It must be known that Li Er's personality was very domineering at this time. The Prime Minister of the Empire could do whatever he wanted, Xiao Yu was a living example, and didn't need to discuss with the other officials. From the looks of it, Di Xiaoxu was just a small left deputy minister and a scattered cavalry attendant. Therefore, he could only say, I know my mistake. I won't dare to do it again. He knew he was in the wrong, but Li Er seemed to be unforgiving today. He paced 2 steps on the spot and continued, others can study in the Yanwang Academy, but you, Di Xiaoxu's son, have a noble status. Do you think it will be an insult to his status in the Yanwang Academy? Let me tell you another piece of news. Do you know that among the examinees today there are Zhang Sun Chong, Xuanling's son, Fang Yizhi, and Dengshan's, Chu Suiliang's son, Chu Yinfu? If their sons can come to Yanwang College, why can't your son? This time Di Xiaoxu was really shocked. He never thought that Zhang Sun Wuji, the head of the civil officials, would actually let his own son participate in Yanwang College's exam. This, Di Xiaoxu really wanted to say, there's a traitor among us. Not to mention Di Xiaoxu, even Li Zishuan was shocked when he heard the news. Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Chu Suiliang, these sons of civil officials actually came? He looked at Li Gang next to him and found that the old man's face was calm at the moment. Obviously, he already knew about this. This made Li Zishuan feel frustrated. It was because he was not careful in his work. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only found out about it now. Seeing the shock on Di Xiaoxu's face, Li Er chuckled and said, Today's matter is your family's business, and I have no right to interfere. However, since it involves Yanwang College, I have no choice but to interfere. It's fine if Di Zishuan doesn't pass the exam this time, but if he does and you still dare to obstruct me, I won't let you off easily. Otherwise, where will Yanwang College's prestige be? Where will my face be? Also, your behavior today is too excessive. Go home and reflect on it for a month, do you understand? Reasonably speaking, Li Er's request wasn't excessive. His starting point was just to help Li Zishuan protect Yanwang College's reputation. Otherwise, if Di Zhixuan really got into Yanhuang College, and was forced to drop out due to Di Xiaoshu's pressure, wouldn't the news spread that Yanhuang College was just a place for the Di family that they didn't want? In this way, not only would Yanhuang College's reputation be damaged, but Li Er's plan of using engineering to weaken the aristocratic families and balance Confucianism would also fail. This was something Li Er couldn't tolerate. However, Di Xiaoshu didn't think so. It was fine if he had to reflect at home for a month, but he had high hopes for Di Zhixuan. Thus, he couldn't help but say, "Your Majesty, this, What?" Li Er's eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness, and his voice became a little dangerous. Di Xiaoshu trembled and finally bowed his head and said, "This old official obeys." Li Er nodded with satisfaction and said, "Well, in this case, Minister Di, you can go back. We just finished the morning court and Minister Di came here. You must be physically and mentally tired. You'd better go back and have a good rest." Di Xiaoshu was speechless. He wanted to wait here until the morning's exam was over and hint Di Zhixuan not to do his best for the exam. However, Li Er asked him to go home directly, which really blocked his last escape route. He had no choice but to salute and say, "Thank you for your understanding, Your Majesty. This old official will take his leave." At this point, he could only pray in his heart that Di Zhixuan's arithmetic level was terrible. After Di Xiaoshu left, Li Er looked at Li Zixuan and said, "Where do these candidates have lunch at noon? Boy, do you have any arrangements?" Qing Chumo was a special case. He handed in his paper early and lived close to the college, so he could go home for lunch and take a nap. However, for most of the students, they could only eat lunch at Yanhuang College or near Yanhuang College. Otherwise, it was very likely that they would be late for the afternoon exam. The afternoon exam time was 1:30 in the afternoon. Li Zixuan replied with a smile, "Your Majesty, thank you for your concern. I have already arranged it. The college's canteen will be open to the candidates at noon. It can accommodate more than 1,000 people at the same time. If anyone thinks the food in the canteen is too expensive, they can also eat in the Plum Village and the Han Village at the foot of the mountain. The villagers there have prepared all kinds of food today." Li Er stared at him and said, "Oh, what? Boy, do you need money to feed the students?" It was no wonder that Li Zixuan had such thoughts. It was because Li Zixuan's usual style of doing things was very rich. Especially when he built Yanhuang College, he threw away hundreds of thousands of coins without batting an eye. After Li Zixuan heard this, he almost vomited blood. What did he mean he needed money to feed the students? Was this something AF** King Human would say? When he was in school in his previous life, he had to swipe his campus card to eat. "Your Majesty, the ingredients used in the college's cooking were all bought by me at a high price. This is all cost. You can't let me run the college for 2 years and throw away all my family's wealth, right?" Li Zixuan said with a sullen face. Li Er was happy when he saw this and said, "Go, go, go. Do you think I don't know your background? You're actually complaining to me about being poor. Let's not talk about other things. Because Cheng Qian and Qin Ke are doing business with you, they are now richer than me. Many of the Empress clothes and jewelry this summer were bought by them." Li Zixuan was speechless. Li Gang said with a chuckle, "Haha, Your Majesty, little Xian is right. The food in the college is very good, so the ingredients are also very expensive. I want to spend the rest of my life here." Chapter 670. Li Er had never been to Yanhuang College's cafeteria before. After hearing Li Gang's praises for the food in the cafeteria, he had the idea of going there to take a look. The three of them went to the cafeteria before the exam ended. They casually ordered 3 side dishes and sat at a long dining table to eat. The environment is not bad and the food is not bad. You brat. Not only do you know how to enjoy yourself, you also have to lead others to enjoy with you. When the students of Yanhuang College graduate in the future, Will they all be like you, not knowing how to suffer but only know how to enjoy themselves? After eating, Li Er drank tea with satisfaction and joked with Li Zishuan at the same time. Li Zishuan shook his head and said, I don't think so. Although the conditions of Yanhuang College are very good, this is just a big pie that I painted for the students. I want to tell them that if they want to live a good life in the future, and if they want the people of Tang Empire to not have to worry about food and clothing, then they have to study engineering hard. Moreover, for most students, if they want to eat well and study well in Yanhuang College, they have to put in a lot of effort. It doesn't mean that they don't need to suffer. Li Er pointed at Li Zishuan and said, You're full of twisted logic. Then he looked out the window, sighed, and said, I have already helped you block many voices of opposition. You have to work hard yourself. I have high hopes for Gong Shui, but if it continues to be useless, then I will be very disappointed. Do you know? Li Zishuan's heart trembled. He said in a deep voice, I understand. I will not let your majesty down. Indeed, Li Er had done enough for engineering and Yanhuang College. However, one needed to be strong to forge iron. If Li Zishuan could not prove the value of engineering in the next few years, then Li Zishuan would have nothing to say even if Li Er gave up on Yanhuang College. Clang, clang, clang. At this moment, loud and clear sounds of bells and drums could be heard from all directions of the academy. Li Zishuan looked at Li Zishuan in confusion. Li Zishuan smiled and explained, Your Majesty, this means that the examination is over. I think the candidates will be here for their meal soon. Li Er was suddenly enlightened. Then he stood up and prepared to leave. Before he left, he said, All right, in order to avoid unnecessary trouble, I'm going back to the palace. In a while, get someone to send a copy of the exam papers to me. Also, send the answers to me. I'll have time to see what kind of questions you've set this time. Li Zishuan thought for a while. Li Er wouldn't reveal the questions and answers for the afternoon exam, would he? In this world, the person who could bribe Li Er to help cheat probably hadn't been born yet. Thus, he cupped his hands and replied, Yes. Hey. Tianhua, how did you do? Are you confident? Liao Feichen asked with a smile as he walked downstairs. The legendary heroes of Jin and Yu were gathered together again. Chen Tianhua said angrily, There's another exam in the afternoon. It's too early to say if I'm confident or not. Let's think about where to go to fill our stomachs first. Hua Hongyi laughed and said, Ha. That's right. The world is big, but eating is the most important. Only when we fill our stomachs will we have the energy to deal with the afternoon exam. Anyway, he didn't need to pay for his meals recently, so this guy was the happiest. Liao Feichen rolled his eyes. He thought for a while and said, Why don't we go to the academy's cafeteria to eat? Didn't the gentleman at the entrance say that today's candidates can eat at Yanhuang College's cafeteria? Chen Tianhua hesitated and said, But who knows if the food here is expensive or not? We've seen the luxury of Yanhuang College today. What if the price of the food in the cafeteria is as luxurious as the high-rise buildings here? How can we afford it? Why don't we go to the villager's house at the foot of the mountain to eat? Hey, Tianhua, you're the author of Zhang Xiaohua's biography of a cultivator. You have thousands of followers. How can you shrink back from such a small matter? Hearing this, Hua Hongyi fanned the flames from the side. Chen Tianhua was furious. Just as he was about to explode, he heard Liao Feichen say, Let's go and take a look first. I don't think Lord Li will use these dishes to make money wantonly. Besides, if it's really ridiculously expensive, we'll go down the mountain to eat. Tianhua, what do you think? Chen Tianhua said helplessly, Since you've already said it, what else can I do? Let's go? Let's go. The two of them laughed excitedly and hurriedly followed him. When they arrived at the cafeteria of Yanhuang College, the three of them were once again amazed by the huge building and the luxurious decorations. Chen Tianhua touched his wallet and swallowed his saliva. In the end, he still walked in under the urging of the two guys behind him. After entering, they realized that there were already hundreds of examinees inside. Moreover, they were divided into more than 10 lines. It looked like they were queuing up for food. Haha. So many people are here to eat. It doesn't look expensive, Liao Feichen said with a smile when he saw the scene. Chen Tianhua did not deny it. He randomly chose a shorter line and walked in. After walking in, the three of them realized that there was a menu posted on the window of each line. Moreover, there was a price tag behind each dish. Nod chicken, 250 copper coins, braised pork, 250 copper coins, meatball, 250 copper coins, dompa pork, 250 copper coins, twice-cooked pork, 250 copper coins. Hiss. Why are the dishes here so expensive? Ordering 3 dishes already costs almost 1 copper coin. Liao Feichen could not help but exclaim after looking at the prices on the menu. The surrounding students in the line heard him and immediately looked at him with disdain. Hua Hongyi quickly pulled Liao Feichen and whispered, "Feichen, don't talk nonsense. These dishes are the signature dishes of Zuatian restaurant. Each dish costs 1 copper coin there. However, they are only sold for 250 copper coins here. This means that Lord Li really does not intend to earn money from the students. Don't say that they are expensive." Chen Tianhua was also shocked when he heard that. He whispered, "Each dish costs 1 copper coin? Hong Yi, are you sure that people will eat such expensive dishes?" Hua Hongyi curled his lips and said, "Hee. There are many people who are willing to eat them. Sometimes they even have to line up." Liao Feichen clicked his tongue and said, "Wow, there are so many rich people in Chang'an City. However, if we really calculate it this way, wouldn't we have earned more than 500 copper coins just by randomly eating a dish here today?" Chen Tianhua was speechless and said, "You can calculate it this way." In the end, the three of them only bought a plate of braised pork and a plate of nod chicken. Even so, Chen Tianhua felt the pinch because he was the one who paid for it. Previously, it was said that Yanwang College's first batch of students did not have to pay tuition fees, and that it was a chance for us poor students. But now, it seems that with these dishes, how many poor students can afford to eat them every day? Chapter 671. You can't say that. Maybe the food in our line is more expensive. Look at the people next to us. Their food is very different from ours. Maybe the price is different too? Hearing Chen Tianhua's complaint, Hua Hongyi looked around and couldn't help but say. Chen Tianhua also looked around and said, "No wonder the line we were in just now had the least people. It turns out that the food there is the most expensive." Liao Feichen grinned and said, "Hee. We've already bought it. Why are you still talking about this? Let's eat first." Hee. Chen Tianhua and Hua Hongyi saw that most of the food on their plate was gone. They roared in unison, F***CK. Shut up, Feichen. Hee. Qinke, I didn't expect that not only do we have to line up to eat, but we also have to pay for it ourselves. Li Ku and Li Tai sat opposite each other near a window. Looking at the 4 dishes on the table, Li Ku said with a smile. Li Tai pouted and said as if he was used to it, "What's so strange about that? Mr. Li is a person who values rules very much. He is most particular about treating everyone equally. Aku, you'll stay in Yanwang College for a long time in the future. Little brother, let me remind you not to try to cut the line. If Mr. Li finds out, no one can save you." Li Tai and Li Ku were born only a month apart, so Li Tai wasn't used to calling Li Ku elder brother. Instead, he called him by his name. Hearing how scary this guy was, Li Ku couldn't help but shrink his neck and said weakly, "Ah Tai, is this really as serious as you say?" Li Tai stuffed a piece of chicken into his mouth and said with a lisp, "Oh, of course. How can I cheat, you not hurt?" Li Ku answered in a muffled voice. Then, seeing how happy Li Tai was eating, he couldn't help but pick up a piece of braised pork and put it into his mouth. The child suddenly opened his eyes wide and exclaimed with a lisp, "Oh, why is the food at Yanhuang College so delicious?" When Li Tai heard that, a sense of superiority immediately rose in his heart. As he ate, he said proudly, "Of course! The dishes we're eating are all the signature dishes of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. Of course, there are many dishes here that the Drunken Immortal Restaurant doesn't have. In any case, in my opinion, the food here is even better than the Imperial Palace." Although what Li Tai said was a little exaggerated, Li Tai thought about it seriously and nodded in agreement. Yes, that's true. Wouldn't it be great to study in Yanhuang College in the future? Li Tai was just about to nod his head in agreement when he suddenly remembered that Li Zixuan had said not long ago that Yanhuang College would help him lose weight during the first month of school. The little fatty immediately withered and said in a depressed tone, "Maybe." After saying that, he turned his grief and indignation into appetite and stuffed the meat into his mouth. Ugh! Li Ku didn't know why Li Tai's mood suddenly became depressed when he was clearly very happy. He paused and deliberately changed the topic. "Li Tai, in the exam this morning, that so-called moral test, is it really like what the questions say? There's no right or wrong, no good or bad choices. Pft! Cough cough. Aku, you don't really believe it, do you? That's Mr. Li's evil scheme." When Li Tai heard that, he immediately spat out the rice and almost choked himself to death. He recovered and said to Li Ku. Li Ku was quite agile and avoided the tragedy of being sprayed all over his face, but when he looked at the table full of food, he couldn't eat any more. However, after listening to Li Tai's words, he was a little curious. Evil scheme? Could it be that the questions are all lies? When Li Tai saw that the table full of food had been sprayed into such an unsightly state by him, he was a little embarrassed. He touched his nose embarrassedly and said, "Of course it's a lie. Aku, if you believe it and randomly choose, then you're finished. Speaking of which, you don't really believe it, do you?" Li Ku shook his head and said, "No, I did believe it at first, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt that something was wrong, so I changed it." Li Tai heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Oh, that's good, that's good. Then, let's order another table full of food." "Sure enough, let's eat." On the other side, Iron Egg and Hu Zhen sat together. As people from the same village, Iron Egg naturally had to take care of Iron Egg, so this lunch was naturally his treat. As Li Zixuan's brother-in-law, this child was not short of money now. "Oh, thank you, Iron Egg bro." Hu Zhen thanked him and looked at the delicious food on the table. He licked his lips and said embarrassedly, "I didn't expect the food here to be so expensive. I'll return the money to you when I go back." Iron Egg waved his hand and said, "Ha ha! No need, no need, this meal is my treat." "How can that be? This meal already cost a lot of money." "Ha! If I say it's okay, then it's okay. Hurry up and eat. If you continue to talk nonsense, I'll get angry." Hu Zhen saw that Iron Egg was really angry, so he lowered his head and ate a few mouthfuls. He suddenly said, "Iron Egg bro, this Yanhuang College is so expensive. If I get admitted in the future, I won't be able to afford this meal, but I don't know if I can go home to eat." Iron Egg laughed and said, "That won't do. The academy doesn't allow students to go out during normal times. They can only go home during the holidays. As for food, in fact, there are many cheaper dishes in the cafeteria. Each meal should only cost a dozen copper coins. Also, I heard from my master that Yanhuang College will assign some tasks to students in the future. Students can do tasks in the academy to earn money while studying. Besides, the Academy's annual scholarship will be very generous. Anyway, as long as you are diligent and eager to learn, you will have a good life in the Academy." Hu Zhen was surprised and said, "Really? Haha, if that's the case, Then I can eat good food in the academy every day in the future. Iron Egg was speechless. He thought that this child would not become a foodie like Li Tai in the future. Oh. Strange, my father didn't come to see me. It's really strange. Hasn't the morning court session ended yet? Di Jixuan also came to the cafeteria after the exam. Looking at the attractive dishes in front of him, he was not in a hurry to eat. Instead, he frowned and let his imagination run wild. Oh, forget it, forget it. Let's eat first and finish the exam in the afternoon. At most, I'll get beaten up when I go back. Dad can't beat me to death, can he? After a while, Di Jixuan shook his head and murmured. Then he picked up a piece of chicken and stuffed it into his mouth. Feeling the burnt and meat aroma, Di Jixuan opened his eyes wide and almost swallowed his chopstick. Oh, delicious, really King delicious. If only I could eat here every day. Chapter 672. This Yanhuang College is really shocking. Not only is the building luxurious and magnificent, even the food is so exquisite. It's comparable to Zuaxian restaurant. Little brother, I came here to learn more about engineering. I didn't expect that I would fall in love with this place. At another table, Zhang Sun Chong, Fang Yizhi, Chu Yanfu, and Yuan Shuo were eating together. Zhang Sun Chong suddenly sighed. Fang Yizhi laughed. Yes, I feel the same. Now it's up to us to pass. Chu Yanfu joked. Yizhi, you're so humble. Wasn't the Confucian classics in the morning your best subject? You might even get full marks. Among Fang Xuanling's 3 sons, only the eldest, Fang Yizhi, inherited some of his father's studious genes. He was familiar with the classics since young, which was why Chu Yanfu said so. Fang Yizhi waved his hand and said, Yanfu, don't say that. The most important part of this exam is the mathematics in the afternoon. Besides, the morality test in the morning is making me dizzy. I'm really not sure about it. Yuan Shuo couldn't help but say, actually, I'm curious. Why did Prime Minister Fang, Prime Minister Chu, and Duke Zhao suddenly allow you to come to Yanhuang College? I have less time to prepare than the others by a month. I'm the one who has the least chance of passing. The fathers of the 3 of them were all prime ministers of Tang Dynasty. Only Yuan Shuo's father was a small assistant minister. However, his relationship with Chu Yanfu had always been very good. At first, Chu Yanfu wasn't very sure that he would come to Yanhuang College, so he didn't think much of it. Who knew that Chu Yanfu suddenly told him that he would definitely go to Yanhuang College? As a good friend, of course he had to accompany him. Therefore, taking everything into account, he had only prepared for this exam for slightly more than a month. Hearing Yuan Shuo's question, the other 3 looked at each other. In the end, it was Chu Yanfu who answered, Actually, I don't know why my father suddenly became open-minded. Maybe it's because the influence of engineering has increased. Zhang Sun Zhong and Fang Yizhi also shook their heads. Obviously, they didn't know the reason either. Sigh. Who cares? Let's eat. We still have to take the exam after eating. Burp. This food is really comfortable. If only my dad would allow me to stay in Yanhuang College forever after I pass the exam. After lunch, Di Jixuan rubbed his swollen belly and walked unsteadily to Guanghua Building. Although the weather today was not hot, it was better to rest in the classroom than to be noisy outside. Young man, please wait. Just as Di Jixuan was praying that his father would show mercy and allow him to stay in Yanhuang College in the future, a low but powerful voice suddenly sounded beside him. Di Jixuan was shocked and quickly turned his head to look around. He found a man in black under a big tree not far away, looking at him. Are you talking to me? Di Jixuan looked around again and found that there was no one else nearby, so he pointed at himself and asked tentatively. Okay. The man in black nodded coolly. Di Jixuan became alert and thought to himself, this is the academy. I won't meet any bad guys, will I? he asked tentatively. Then may I ask why you are looking for me? The man in black cupped his hands and said, I've been entrusted by someone to deliver something to you. Please come over here, young master. What is it? Tell me first. Dijishuan looked at the man suspiciously and thought, why does this line sound so much like those villains who kidnap children in dramas? Little boy, come over here. Uncle has candy to eat. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but hesitate. Seeing Dijishuan hesitate, the man said anxiously, Little Langjun, are you afraid that I have bad intentions toward you? This is Yanwang College, and their Yamacho is a master of martial arts. No matter how stupid I am, I won't do anything illegal here, right? Dijishuan thought about it and felt that the man in black was right. Moreover, the man in black looked righteous and didn't look like a villain. So he walked over carefully and at the same time, he was ready to shout for help at any time. Now can you tell me what it is? According to common sense, the man in front of him wouldn't make trouble, but Dijishuan was still very vigilant. Little Langjun, wait. The man in black reached into his arms as if he was taking something out. Dijishuan's eyelids twitched, for he was afraid that the man was taking out a dagger or some other weapon. When he saw what the man took out, he couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, because what he took out was not a weapon, but a small piece of paper the size of a palm. Little Langjun, this is what my master asked me to give to you. Remember to destroy it after you read it, or it will bring you trouble. Since I've delivered it, I'll leave now. Little Langjun, we won't meet again. The black-clothed man handed the small piece of paper to Dijishuan. After leaving behind a few words, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. Hey! Who is your master? What is written on it? Why do you want to destroy it after you read it? You haven't made it clear yet. Don't go. Dijishuan was shocked. He wanted to stop the man and ask him what was going on, but when he looked up, there was not even a shadow in front of him. Damn! What does this man mean? He left just like that? He didn't even make it clear. Dijishuan muttered in a low voice. Then, he looked at the small folded piece of paper in his hand and suddenly felt very conflicted. Should I read it or not? What if there is something disgraceful written in it? Then I can't clear my name even if I jump into the Yellow River. But what if it's not a heresy? Hey! I'll just take a peek. There's no one around anyway. In the end, Dijishuan gritted his teeth, hid under a tree, and opened the piece of paper. He saw the words on it. One day, Xiaoming went to buy onions and asked the shop owner how much they cost per kilogram. The shop owner said that the price was 10 coins per kilogram. If he wanted 100 kilograms, it would be 1,000 coins. Damn! Which lunatic has nothing better to do than to give me this kind of paper? Is this a story? Dijishuan, who originally thought that it was a record of the romantic affairs of a court official, couldn't help but complain after reading the beginning. He resisted the urge to throw the paper away, took a deep breath, and continued reading. After reading it, his face changed. He slowly put away the paper and muttered to himself, "This title is very interesting. But who is so bored to send me such a note? What is the purpose? He also told me to destroy it after reading it. There are many things that don't make sense." Chapter 673. In the end, Dijishuan was still full of questions. He tore the piece of paper into powder and returned to the examination room where he had been in the morning to rest. In the afternoon, the second exam of Yanwang College began on time with the sound of dang dang dang. Some people were anxious about this mathematics exam, while others were full of expectations, especially Ching Chumo, Wang Meng, and Iron Egg, who were not good at studying classics but were good at mathematics. They were all looking forward to this afternoon's exam to make up for their shortcomings in the morning. They even hoped that today's exam questions would be more difficult, because only then could they, who were good at mathematics, widen the gap between them and the other candidates. However, reality did not develop as they expected. Li Zixuan's mathematics exam paper this time did not have so many tricky questions. Overall, this exam paper mainly tested the basic knowledge. In terms of difficulty, it was not even 30% as difficult as the monthly exam of the School of Mathematics. After all, for most of the candidates, even if they had self-studied mathematics for 2 months, their understanding of mathematics could not be compared to the students of the School of Mathematics who had been taught by famous teachers. Therefore, in order to take care of the majority of the students, Li Zixuan's mathematics exam paper was also greatly reduced in difficulty. However, this made the students of the School of Mathematics somewhat uncomfortable. Many people had clearly written the correct answer, but they could not help but doubt in their hearts. Was this question really that easy? Were there really no traps in it? You could not blame them for being suspicious. In the past, they were afraid of all kinds of traps in Li Zixuan's exam papers. Did Xiao Xian change his personality this time? Why are the questions so easy? It didn't take long for Qing Chumo to finish the 10 fill-in-the-blank questions. He was so fast that he started to doubt himself. Fortunately, this idiot still had some self-awareness and didn't think that it was because he was too good at mathematics. On the other side, Iron Egg was also puzzled. He had finished 2 big questions at this time, but there was no pride or joy on his face. Instead, he was puzzled in his heart. What's wrong with these questions? Why are they all basic questions in the textbook? If the rest of the exam is as difficult as this, I'm not sure about the other candidates, but the students from the School of Mathematics will definitely score more than 90 points. Bruiser was not exaggerating. It was just that when Li Zixuan was teaching in the School of Mathematics, they were the most hard-working, the happiest, and the most effective. During that time, everyone was competing with each other and working hard to learn. Even the few students with the worst grades were considered to be above average among the 2,000 or so examinees now. In fact, this was indeed the case. Looking at the examinees in the other examination halls, no one could compare to the top students of the School of Mathematics. Most of them could not even compare to Qing Chumo. This was where the difference in learning effects between self-study and the guidance of a great teacher was reflected. Phew! It's still considered smooth. He should be almost halfway done. Fortunately, there aren't any difficult questions. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to finish them in 4 hours. In examination hall number 51, Di Zixuan wiped the sweat from his forehead and thought to himself. The difficulty of this set of exam papers was just right for him. Although he did not have a firm grasp of many of the knowledge points and could not remember clearly, he could still recall them if he spent some time thinking about it. After stumbling along the way, he finally finished half of the exam questions in 2 hours. Gradually, as time passed, the afternoon mathematics exam gradually came to an end. Di Zixuan finally solved the last question. Almost out of habit, he first looked at the score of this question. When he saw it, he was immediately stunned. Damn it! This question is actually worth 20 points? Damn it, if I had known, I wouldn't have fought so hard with that equation in front of me. 20 points. My 20 points. Di Zixuan wailed crazily in his heart because there were less than 15 minutes left before the end of the exam. He felt that it was simply impossible to solve the last question in such a short time. Di Zixuan, who was dejected, glanced at the last question with the mentality of, so be it. Then, he was stunned again. Oh, God! This question! He saw that the question said, one day, Xiaoming went to buy onions and asked the shop owner how much they cost per caddy. The shop owner said that the price was 10 copper coins per caddy, and the price was 1,000 copper coins per caddy. Xiaoming then asked the shop owner if he could sell the white onions and the green onions separately. The shop owner said that the white onions were 7 copper coins per caddy, and the green onions were 3 copper coins per caddy. In the end, Xiaoming bought 25 caddies of the white onions and 25 caddies of the green onions. In the end, 50 times 7 for the white onions was 350 copper coins, and 50 times 3 for the green onions was 150 copper coins, which added up to 500 copper coins. Xiaoming gave the shop owner 500 copper coins and left. Why do you think this is? The reason why Di Jixuan was so shocked was that the content of the note given to him by the man in black was exactly the same as this question. There was even an answer on the note. At that time, he thought that the question was very interesting and the answer was very unexpected. Who knew that he would encounter the exact same question during the exam? Was there anything more bizarre than this? There is not much time left. Write down the answer first, and we will talk about the rest later. Seeing that there were people handing in their test papers in the classroom, Di Jixuan had no time to think about other things. He quickly wrote down the answers that he had seen before on the test paper. After he finished writing, he even had time to check it again. Logically speaking, if he hadn't seen the correct answer before, it was absolutely impossible for him to write it down in such a short time. Oh, who on earth gave me the question and the answer on purpose? Who has such a great ability? This is the entrance exam of Yanhuang College. Seeing that it was not time to hand in the paper, Di Jixuan began to analyze the background of the man in black. After thinking for a long time, he couldn't think of who had such a great ability to get the question. Inadvertently, he glanced at the top of the paper and saw the words, Author, Li Zixuan. His eyes instantly lit up, and his heart was suddenly enlightened. Damn it! Could it be that little brother? Oh no, it should be Yamacho. Could it be that Yamacho asked someone to give me the question and the answer? Damn it! What a good person! Yamacho is really a good person. Di Jixuan sighed in his heart. He didn't feel guilty about cheating because in his mind, it was the Yamacho of Yanhuang College who asked him to cheat. Why should he feel guilty? Chapter 674. More than 2 hours ago, in the Sweet Dew Hall. Dugu Xian, how's the thing I asked you to do going? Li Er asked faintly. Dugu Xian cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, I've already asked someone to personally deliver that piece of paper to Di Jixuan, and I saw him open it with my own eyes. Li Er nodded and said, Not bad. This question is worth 20 points, and mathematics takes up 50% of the weight of the entire exam. In other words, I've increased Di Jixuan's total score by 10 points. Now he should have no problem getting into Yanhuang College, right? Dugu Xian sweated profusely. In the past, he would never have thought that Li Er would do such a boring thing, but now that things had come to this, he could only accept the reality. Hearing Li Er's question, he hurriedly replied, I've heard that the fifth son of Secretary D has been extraordinarily intelligent since he was young. Under Secretary D's urging, he was already familiar with the classics and history when he was 8 years old. I'm sure the entrance exam of Yanhuang College won't be a problem for him. Now that he has Your Majesty's help, he'll definitely get in. When Li Er heard that, his face instantly revealed an expression of, my evil scheme has succeeded. He chuckled and said, Heh? Now Di Xiaoxiu still has the face to say that engineering is a miscellaneous subject, right? Now his own son is also involved. Is this still the wise and mighty Tang Emperor who doesn't show his emotions on his face? Dugu Xian was a little dumbfounded. Li Zixuan used the questions and answers given by Li Er to help Di Jixuan cheat. This kind of strange and illogical thing, Li Zixuan, the person involved, would never have thought of it. At this time, he didn't have time to care about this, because the entrance exam of Yanhuang College had already ended. He let the examinees go back to rest first. The day after tomorrow, the college would release the results on time. The students who passed the exam would need to attend the opening ceremony of Yanhuang College in the afternoon. After that, they would have 2 days off to prepare for the admission. Of course, this arrangement also meant that all the teachers in the academy would be in a race against time to mark the papers. They would not have a moment of leisure. In order to ensure absolute fairness and impartiality, the grading of the papers needed to be done. After that, Li Zixuan distributed the papers for the classics and moral test to the teachers of the economics department and the geography department. The papers for the mathematics department were distributed to the teachers of the mathematics department, the physics department, and the chemistry department. As for the answers and grading standards, Li Zixuan had already asked each of them to copy a copy. There shouldn't be any problems with grading the papers according to the answers and grading standards, right? Moreover, after marking the test papers, there would be someone to check them again. If there were any objections, they would be handed over to Li Zixuan to judge them personally. In this way, the probability of misjudgment would be minimized. Gentlemen, there are a total of more than 4,000 test papers this time, but we only have 1 day and 2 nights. The task is very important, but there is no other way. The academy has a very important task at the back. We have to start school as soon as possible, so I'll have to trouble you. Furthermore, before I finish marking the papers, I will be busy with all of you at the academy. Let's start working now. Group leaders of each department, pay attention to the distribution of work. In the conference room, more than 70 classrooms were gathered together. Li Zixuan looked at them and said in a clear voice, "More than 4,000 test papers corresponded to more than 70 people. The workload of each person was quite large. No wonder Li Zixuan was so serious about sharing the joys and sorrows with them." "Yes, Yamacho." The 5 group leaders of Yanhuang College's 5 major departments answered in unison. The rest of the teachers also puffed out their chests and showed a firm expression. Most of them were attracted by Yanhuang College's generous treatment at the beginning. They were not optimistic about the future of this civilian academy. However, after seeing so many students coming to Yanhuang College's examination today, a sense of pride and responsibility rose in their hearts. Everyone had dreams. Everyone wanted to make a name for themselves and leave a mark for generations to come. Li Zixuan waved his hand, and the teachers of the academy immediately went into a busy state. They had to work for a while before the sky turned dark. After all, there were so many of them at night, and they could not mark the papers together because the candlelight was too weak. On the other hand, after Di Xiaoxiu finished his examination, he had been wondering if he should go home. He had been fooling around in the academy. In the end, a follower of the school of Mo in the academy could not stand it anymore and asked him why he was fooling around in the academy. Of course, that was not his original words. Only then did Di Zixuan leave the academy unhappily. Looking in the direction of Chang and Di Zixuan's expression changed. After some time, he said tragically, "I can hide for a while, but I can't hide for a lifetime. What will come will come. Go back. If the old man wants to deal with me, let him deal with me." After saying that, he strode forward as if he was going to the execution ground. Under the setting sun, his shadow was elongated, and he looked a little sad. 45 minutes later, he finally entered Chang'an City. He encouraged himself and then walked in the direction of the D family. After a while, the D family's residence appeared in front of him. Di Zixuan did not hesitate and walked directly to the gate of the D family's residence. "Young master! Young master!" The scene where the guards of the D residence would swarm him and hand him over to his father did not happen. They only greeted Di Zixuan and then continued to observe and listen to the surroundings. It was as if they did not know that Di Zixuan had sneaked out of the residence today. Where is my father now?" Di Zixuan asked calmly. Since he had decided to go home, he had to face the anger of the old man. Besides, if the old man really wanted to do something to him, he could run away. At worst, he could run to Yanhuang College. He believed that with his performance in the exam, it would not be a problem for him to enter Yanhuang College. Old master is in the backyard. A gatekeeper bowed and answered. Oh, I know. Di Jishuan waved his hand and walked to the backyard. When he entered the backyard, he saw Di Xiaoshu playing chess alone under the pavilion. Was this the legendary game with him? Jishuan, you're back? Come here. Just when Di Jishuan was hesitating, Di Xiaoshu, who was playing chess in the pavilion, suddenly called out. Di Jishuan hurriedly replied, Ah, father, I'm back. Di Xiaoshu asked meaningfully, how was the exam today? Hearing this, Di Jishuan felt strange. Logically speaking, his father should have beaten him up at this time. Why was he still chatting amiably with his father? Chapter 675. In the backyard of the D residence. Cough, cough. Father, I was wrong. I shouldn't have sneaked out to take the exam. Di Jishuan felt that something was wrong with Di Xiaoshu's question. He guessed that his father was pretending to be weak on purpose, waiting for him to get carried away before giving him a fatal blow. Therefore, Di Jishuan didn't act rashly at this time. Instead, he admitted his mistake very cautiously. Di Xiaoshu frowned. If it was any other time, he would definitely hit him. However, the warning that Li Er gave him in the morning still rang in his ears. He could only suppress the anger in his heart and said in a low voice, Let's not talk about this first. This old man wants to know how you did on the exam today. Di Jishuan couldn't understand his father's meaning. He pondered for a moment and said, I didn't prepare well for the exam this time, so I didn't do very well on the exam. In his mind, his father didn't like him studying mathematics. If he told him that he did very well on the exam, wouldn't he be waiting for a beating? However, he was destined to miscalculate this time. When Di Xiaoshu heard that his son didn't do well on the exam, he couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. Didn't that mean that he couldn't get into Yanhuang College? In that case, wouldn't the agreement that Li Er made with him in the morning be invalid? Then what did he have to worry about? Thinking of this, Di Xiaoshu immediately changed his expression and said loudly, Unfilial son, this old man repeatedly ordered you not to go out in these 3 days. In the end, you turned a deaf ear and insisted on doing things your own way. You actually took advantage of this old man's morning court to secretly run away from home and go to Yanhuang College to take the entrance exam. How preposterous! Housekeeper, quickly take out the family law. Di Jishuan was shocked. He stared in shock and said, No, father. Father, didn't you just say that you wouldn't pursue the matter of me leaving the residence without permission? How can you go back on your words? Di Xiaoshu snorted and said, When did this old man say that I wouldn't pursue the matter? Housekeeper, what are you waiting for? Quickly take out the family law. Bastard! You little brat, how dare you run away? Men, arrest him for this old man. Ganlu Palace. This son pays his respects to the emperor. When Li Er heard this, he put down the memorial in his hand and looked up with a smile. Cheng Qian is here. Have a seat. I called you here because I have something to tell you. Li Chengqian gave his thanks and walked to the side to sit on the embroidered stool that the chamberlain had brought over. Then, he looked towards Li Er and cupped his hands, asking, Does Imperial Father have any orders for this son? I will do my best. Li Er waved his hand and said, It's not a big deal. Chengqian, have you heard about the big exam at Yanhuang College today? Li Chengqian didn't understand why Li Er would suddenly ask about this. He could only answer honestly, Of course I know about this. I'm afraid that there aren't many in the entire Chang, city who don't know about this. Li Er nodded. A moment later, he said, We actually ran into Di Xiaoshu in the academy today. At that time, he was causing havoc in Yanhuang College. Li Chengqian asked curiously, Secretary Di? As far as I know, Secretary Di has never had any conflicts with Yanhuang College. Why would he go and wreak havoc in the Yanhuang Academy today? Li Er said with a gloomy expression. He didn't have any conflicts with Yen Huang College in the past, but today, his youngest son secretly went behind his back to participate in Yen Huang College's entrance exam. Di Xiaoxiu discovered that his son was missing after the morning court assembly, so he went to Yen Huang College to ask for him. Although Secretary Di loves his son dearly, this will definitely affect the other examinees. I don't think it's appropriate. Li Chengxian thought for a moment and cupped his hands. He loves his son dearly? Li Er snorted in dissatisfaction and continued, we can put Qin Ke and Ke in Yen Huang College. Don't tell me I don't love my son dearly? Is Di Xiaoxiu's son more precious than our son? We see that some people only know how to cling to the prejudice of their sex, and there are many such people. We didn't want Yen Huang College to develop so quickly, but now it seems. Li Chengqian's expression turned serious. He quickly stood up and said, Father, what do you want me to do? I will do my best. This was what it meant to fight a tiger with brothers, father and son soldiers. Before Li Er finished speaking, Li Chengqian roughly understood what Li Er meant. Li Er saw this and couldn't help but smile. Good. Actually, we wanted to let Yen Huang College slowly develop, but no one expected the first batch of students to apply for Yen Huang College to be so many. This means that many people still recognize Li Zishuan's engineering skills. Since we have such a good foundation, wouldn't it be a waste if we don't make good use of it? As far as we know, Yen Huang College will release the results the day after tomorrow. When that time comes, we will officially start school. We plan to appoint you as a supervisor and enter Yen Huang College in the name of a supervisor. You will return to court a month later. Supervisor? Enter Yen Huang College? Li Chengqian was shocked when he heard this. It wasn't that he didn't want to go to Yen Huang College. Logically speaking, he should be the one who had the deepest relationship with Li Zishuan. Therefore, he should be the one who should go to Li Zishuan's Yen Huang College. However, Li Chengqian understood that as a country's heir, he couldn't go wherever he wanted. If he really went to Yen Huang College, there would definitely be many courtiers who would oppose it. Father, I'm afraid the courtiers won't. Li Chengqian hesitated. Li Er waved his hand and smiled. Don't worry. We are only sending you to supervise, not to enroll. We want to see who will oppose. Actually, things weren't as simple as Li Er said. The reason why he dared to do this was because several civil officials, led by Zhangsun Wuji, had sent their juniors to Yen Huang College. This showed that in the conflict between the sects and the country's interests, there were still many people who were willing to follow Li Er. Li Er was naturally aware of this point. That was why he made this decision. Your son accepts the decree. Although he didn't know where his father's confidence came from, Li Chengqian still agreed. And then Chengqian, go back and prepare. Li Er picked up his teacup and said calmly. Li Chengqian knew that this meant that he should leave. However, he suddenly thought of something and said, Father, I heard that in the first month of Yen Huang College, they will train all the students, just like how they train the army. The person who will be in charge of the training is Duke Yi. Li Er nodded. And there is indeed such a thing. What about it? Qin Xiong had personally told him about this before. He thought about it then. Since there was no war in the Tang Empire, there was no need for Qin Xiong to go to the battlefield. Thus, he agreed on the spot. However, he didn't know why Li Chengqian mentioned this now. Chapter 676. Inside the Ganlu Hall. Li Chengqian cupped his hands and said, Father, I'm worried that with Qingxue's constitution, she won't be able to withstand that kind of high-intensity training. However, the rules set by Xiao Xian can't be abolished because of him. Therefore, I want to use the name of supervising the studies to accompany Qinke to participate in the training. When the time comes, we can take care of each other. Hearing this, Li Er looked deeply at Li Chengqian. After a long time, he said word by word, Approved? Li Chengxian bowed and said, "Thank you, father. Then, I'll take my leave." Seeing that Li Er didn't object, Li Chengxian slowly left the hall. Li Er looked at Li Chengxian's back and an imperceptible gratification flashed through the corner of his eyes. He then heard him mutter, "Brothers are harmonious, father is kind and son is filial. The golden age lasts forever. Chengxian has grown up." After a long time, he stood up and walked out of the hall with his hands behind his back. At the same time, he thought to himself, when Yanhuang College was just being built, there were always many voices of opposition both inside and outside the court. I also constantly balanced the various forces. However, today Li Zishuan has already built the academy. Moreover, the number of students who applied for Yanhuang College far exceeded everyone's expectations. Since that's the case, then I'll continue to add fuel to the fire and have Chengxian personally go to Yanhuang College. Let's see if those people can wake up a little. Although Di Xiaoshu's matter today made Li Er angry, it made him understand one thing more. There were more than one person like Di Xiaoshu in the court. There were many Di Xiaoshu in the court. They were sectarian and looked down on engineering. Normally, they wouldn't show this kind of contempt because of their own power. However, once it involved their own interests, they would unreservedly reveal the contempt in their bones and put it into action. Li Er had Li Chengxian go to the academy to express his attitude and show his support for Yanhuang College. Thinking about it, the country's heir had personally stayed at Yanhuang College. Who else would have a reason to dislike Yanhuang College? The next day, Li Zishuan woke up early. After eating the breakfast personally made by Han Yushi, he went straight to the academy. Last night, he stayed at the Yunshan residence. Because everyone in the academy was so busy that their feet didn't touch the ground, he couldn't return to Chang and to enjoy life alone, right? If he really did that, the people's hearts might be scattered. In less than a quarter of an hour, Li Zishuan arrived at the gate of the Yanhuang Academy. He did not expect to meet the person he least wanted to meet. "Yamacho, you're finally here. You didn't even arrive earlier than me, and you still have the nerve to be a mountain chief." When Mo Lingwei saw Li Zishuan, she quickly walked over and greeted him with a smile. Of course, she only muttered the second half of her sentence softly and didn't say it out loud. However, she definitely didn't expect Li Zishuan to hear her word for word. This girl was wearing a lotus-colored gauze shirt today. Her waist-length hair was only gently tied up with a pink ribbon. She was really cute and charming. From afar, it seemed as if she was covered in mist. She really didn't belong to this world. What a pity. This girl is indeed good-looking, but she's a little unruly and difficult to deal with, Li Zishuan thought to himself. So it's the ink girl. What a coincidence. Li Zishuan pretended that he didn't hear the second half of Mo Lingwei's mocking words and chuckled. It's not a coincidence. I've been waiting for you here. Mo Lingwei blinked and smiled. Waiting for me? When Li Zishuan heard this, he couldn't help but rub his eyebrows. He had a headache and said, "Ink girl, I've told you before. Whether you can come to Yanhuang College or not, I can't make the decision. You should go and find your father. I have to go and mark the papers for the students." He thought for a moment and knew why Mo Lingwei was waiting for him. Therefore, after he finished speaking, he hurriedly ran away. Hey, don't. Mo Lingwei opened her arms and blocked Li Zishuan's path. She said anxiously, I can help you mark the papers. As long as you help me convince my father, I'll mark as many papers as you want." Seeing this girl's bright and beautiful face full of sincerity, Li Zishuan couldn't help but ask, "Ink girl, why are you so determined to come to Yanhuang College to teach?" Mo Lingwei was speechless for a moment. She wanted to say that she wanted to be as good as him, but when the words reached her mouth, they became, "Everyone in the Mo family went to Yanhuang College. I'm the only one left. I'm bored at home alone. I don't want to learn needlework because once I learn it, My father will definitely marry me off. Li Zixuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What kind of reason is this? You want to be a teacher because you're bored at home? This. Ink girl, I understand your desire to become a teacher, but this matter is not up to me. I can't persuade your father, so you should let me in first. Otherwise, it won't be good if the results are delayed tomorrow. Li Zixuan spread his hands and said helplessly. But I know how to do mathematics. Although it's not your new type of mathematics, I can learn it again. Let me tell you, in the Mo family, other than my father, I'm the best at mathematics. If you take me in, you'll have another capable person. Mo Lingwei widened her eyes and said unwillingly, Take me in? Li Zixuan's face was full of black lines. This brat is at it again. Doesn't she know how to watch her words? I didn't expect Ink Girl to be so knowledgeable. However, the college doesn't lack mathematics teachers. Although Li Zixuan was surprised by Mo Lingwei's mathematics standards, he was still unmoved. Mo Lingwei was so angry that she almost lost her temper. But in the end, she held it back and took 2 deep breaths. She smiled sweetly and said, Then I also know how to investigate matter. Force, light, I know what these are, and I also know how to use them. Didn't your physics class teach about these things? Li Zixuan raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but say, You even know these things? God knows how rare it is to meet a girl who knows physics in ancient times. Not to mention ancient times, even in modern times, more than half of the girls are not willing to learn physics. Mo Lingwei proudly raised her chin and snorted, Of course? I know a lot of things. If you take me in, I guarantee that you'll earn a lot. Hearing her say this, Li Zixuan was happy and subconsciously said, Then do you know how to drill wood to start a fire? Cough cough. However, after saying this, Li Zixuan immediately regretted it. Chapter 677. Miss, do you know how to drill wood to start a fire? This was a phrase that Li Zixuan often saw on the bullet screen on a certain live streaming platform in his previous life. As for the origin of this phrase, it should have been said by a live streamer in the Saber section while he was flirting with girls online. Later on, this phrase was developed by the big bosses in the bullet screen to extend its meaning. As for the specific extended meaning, it should be possible to guess with a little thought. After all, drilling wood to start a fire relied on friction to generate heat. But no matter what, it was inappropriate for Li Zixuan to use this phrase to tease Mo Lingwei. After all, she was still a virgin. If Li Zixuan's mischievous words really caused some scandal, it wouldn't be good. Drilling wood to start a fire? I don't know how to do that, but I know how to use ice to start a fire. Isn't that awesome? Of course, Mo Lingwei didn't know the hidden meaning of drilling wood to start a fire. She frowned and thought for a while, then smiled sweetly. Using ice to start a fire? Miss, do you really know how to use ice to start a fire? It was unknown when Yan Xiaoning had suddenly appeared behind Li Zixuan as he exclaimed. Unlike Li Zixuan, Yan Xiaoning, as the chief engineer of Yanhuang College, usually stayed at the college during this period of time. Even if he had to go home at night, he would come very early the next morning. Therefore, Yan Xiaoning definitely contributed a lot to the rapid construction of Yanhuang College. Of course. I'm not bragging. Who are you? Mo Lingwei said proudly, then looked at Yan Xiaoning and asked. Yan Xiaoning was about to say something, but Li Zixuan immediately interrupted him. Cough cough. Ink girl, let me introduce you. This is the son of the famous Minister of Works, Minister Yan. Brother Xiaoning's achievements in landscape architecture are deeply taught by Minister Yan. Don't you think that Yanhuang College is very impressive? This is built by Brother Xiaoning himself. Isn't it amazing? Li Zixuan wouldn't let go of this opportunity, since it was rare for someone to take the bullet for him. He praised Yan Xiaoning as if he was the only genius in the world. Mo Lingwei turned her head to look at Yanhuang College before shifting her gaze back to Yan Xiaoning. Her eyes were filled with admiration. Wow. Although you're a little ugly, you're pretty good. Compared to Li Zixuan, Yan Xiaoning's looks were indeed slightly inferior. However, Yan Xiaoning was definitely not ugly. You? Yan Xiaoning almost vomited blood when he heard that. No one liked being called ugly. If someone he knew said that to him, he would definitely retort. However, he did not know this girl in front of him. How could he have the nerve to retort? Moreover, he had to admit that this girl was quite pretty. Of course, our classmate Yan Xiaoning would never admit that the last one was the main reason. Cough, cough, cough. Xiaoning, this is the daughter of the Mo family's magnate. She's quite proficient in the Mo family's technique. I think the two of you must have a lot in common. Well, you guys can chat first. I have to go in and grade the papers. Li Zixuan rolled his eyes and introduced Mo Lingwei to Yan Xiaoning. Then, he used the cloud-piercing steps and disappeared instantly. What a joke. If he really wanted to run, there were not many people in Chang'an City who could stop him. Li Zixuan left rather confidently, but he left behind a man and a woman staring at each other with their big eyes. Ink girl, did you come to the academy for something? After a long awkward silence, Yan Xiaoning took the initiative to ask. Mo Lingwei seemed to have felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. She bit her lips and said softly, there's something. But it's nothing much. Yan Xiaoning was confused. What did she mean? After a long while he said, we can't just stand here like this. Why don't I bring you to my office to take a look? You have an office? Mo Lingwei tilted her head and thought for a while before asking curiously. It wasn't like she hadn't been to Yanhuang College. Of course, she knew what an office was. It was because she knew that she was so surprised. Because in Yanhuang College, only teachers like her father who were team leaders and above had their own offices. She didn't expect Yan Xiaoning to have his own office in Yanhuang College at such a young age. Hey, of course. Let's go, I'll bring you to take a look. Yan Xiaoning finally found something to be proud of in front of a beauty. He said proudly. His office was on the 9th floor to the left of the Guanghua building. On the right of the 10th floor was Li Zixuan's office. The left of the 10th floor was obviously reserved for Li Zixuan. After all, the left was the most respected at this time. They still had to give Li Zixuan some face. No. My father doesn't like me going to the college all the time. If he sees me, he'll definitely be unhappy. Mo Lingwei was about to follow Yan Xiaoning in when she suddenly thought of Mo Huai. Her expression instantly darkened as she angrily kicked the pebbles on the ground with the tip of her foot and said, Why is that? Yan Xiaoning, who had always been lacking in EQ, found it hard to understand. He was puzzled. Isn't it because I'm a girl? Mo Lingwei rolled her eyes and said angrily. Yan Xiaoning seemed to have understood something. He thought for a while and said, It's okay. Ink girl, don't worry and go in. If Mr. Mo asks, I'll say that I invited you over to study how to drill wood to start a fire. To study how to use ice to start a fire. Yan Xiaoning made a slip of the tongue and almost said drilling wood to start a fire. Although he didn't know what the joke was, judging from Li Zixuan's embarrassed expression just now, these 4 words were obviously not as simple as they seemed. Okay. Then it's settled. I'll teach you how to use ice to start a fire. You'll have to help me explain it to my father. Okay? Mo Lingwei's eyes lit up when she heard that, and she instantly giggled happily. She was originally full of talent and knowledge, but Li Zixuan completely ignored her and avoided her like the plague. This made her angry and helpless. Now, it was rare for someone as good as Li Zixuan to acknowledge her, and was even willing to help her persuade her father. Of course, she was happy. Yan Xiaoning naturally agreed. Thus, the two young men and women who met for the first time didn't even exchange 20 sentences in total before they went to the office together. Yes, the office. Li Zixuan would never have thought that the engineering genius Yan Xiaoning, who had always had a negative EQ, would be so extraordinarily effective in flirting with girls even though his flirting methods seemed clumsy. He had to admit that this was a true flirting expert. Chapter 678. Yamacho, is there a problem with the grading criteria? Li Zixuan had chatted with Mo Lingwei for a long time at the entrance of the academy. When he arrived at the academy, he found that the teachers of the academy had already begun grading the papers in the office. When he passed by the geography department's office, Tang Yu, who was inside, hurriedly ran out and asked. Li Zixuan paused and asked subconsciously, "What's the problem?" "Let me see." Tang Yu handed the paper in his hand to Li Zixuan and said, "This is the grading criteria for the moral character test. Yamacho, why did you specify that the scores for each choice are different? For example, in the first question, why did those who chose Qiongzhou only get 1 point, Xiangzhou 2 points, Bingzhou 3 points, Luoyang 4 points, and Chang'an 5 points? Li Zixuan looked at Tang Yu strangely and answered matter-of-factly. If a person only wants to be content with a small corner and doesn't dare to go to a big city to work hard and gain experience, why would our Yanhuang College want such a timid person? Tang Yu was stunned, but he couldn't help but ask. But Yamacho, you said on the question that there is no right or wrong choice. Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Yes, there is no right choice. So, no matter what they choose, they will get a point." Tang Yu opened his mouth and said unhappily, "But the question also said that there is no right or wrong choice." Li Zixuan was speechless. If it weren't for the wrong occasion, he would have grabbed Tang Yu and said to everyone, "Come on! There is an honest person here. Everyone, come and bully him." Glancing into the office, Li Zixuan found that although many people were grading the papers on the surface, their eyes were always inadvertently glancing over. Obviously, Tang Yu was not the only honest person. He thought for a moment and said, "If I didn't write this in the question, how could the examinees answer the questions according to their true thoughts?" Tang Yu. He didn't know if he should curse in his heart. Not only Tang Yu, but all the teachers in the geography department's office were completely dumbfounded. They didn't expect Li Zixuan, a Yamacho, to be so shameless. But Yamacho, aren't you lying? As a teacher, how can I set a bad example for my students? Seeing that Li Zixuan was about to leave, Tang Yu mustered up his courage and shouted. Li Zixuan paused. The teachers in the office held their breaths and couldn't help swallowing. They thought to themselves, Tang Yu is probably finished this time. How dare he talk to Yamacho like that? However, the reality was not as they had imagined. Li Zixuan did not get angry. Instead, he smiled and said, "If I don't lie to them, won't they lie to me on the test paper in order to get high marks? It's also a lie, but my lie is to prevent these thousands of students from lying. Mr. Tang, don't you think it's necessary for me to tell this lie?" Hearing this, Tang Yu was speechless. Seeing that Tang Yu had nothing to say, Li Zixuan smiled and turned to leave. In fact, this guy himself somewhat admired what he had just said. The reason was very strong, so strong that no one could refute it. At the same time, in the imperial court of Taiji Palace. Obviously, the morning court had been going on for some time. At this time, Li Er looked at the ministers and said lightly, "Yanhuang College has just opened. I want to appoint the Crown Prince as the superintendent. In the name of the superintendent, I will inspect Yanhuang College for a month. What do you think?" His tone was rather flat, but the content was not flat at all. When the ministers in the hall heard this, they immediately burst into an uproar, whispering to each other in private. Only Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling and a few others remained expressionless. "Your Majesty, I think this is inappropriate." Minister Cui Shanyu of the Honglu Temple stepped forward and bowed to Li Er. Li Er raised his eyebrows and asked in a deep voice, "What's inappropriate?" Hearing that Li Er's tone was a little unfriendly, Cui Shanyu trembled and a trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. However, he still forced himself to say, "The Crown Prince is the heir of a country, but Yanhuang College is a place to teach engineering. I'm afraid this will shake people's hearts." Li Er's face was gloomy and said, "Then tell me, whose heart did I shake?" This, Cui Shanyu was suddenly speechless. The ministers in the hall were suddenly silent. At this time, they understood that Li Er did not come with good intentions today. The matter of sending Li Chengqian to the Yanhuang Academy was more of a notice than a discussion between Li Er and them. This was because there seemed to be no room for discussion. "You won't say? Then I'll say it for you." Seeing that Cui Shanyu lowered his head and did not dare to speak, Li Er suddenly stood up and pointed at Cui Shanyu, saying, "You said my actions will shake people's hearts. I guess you think I'm shaking the roots of Confucianism, shaking the foundations of the aristocratic families. Cough cough, let's not talk about gays. Old Li has committed a taboo? I've already said in the court that as long as it's useful to my Tang Dynasty and can make my Tang Dynasty stronger, I'm willing to accept it. I have no intention of stirring up a dispute between schools of thought. Confucianism has always been orthodox. In comparison, engineering is only a tool to make the country stronger. I'm letting Chengqian go to Yanhuang College to let him go to the sword of the world, that is engineering, so that he can fully use it in the future to make my Tang Dynasty stronger. However, some of you keep thinking that I'm shaking the foundations of Confucianism. Do you understand that first there is the country, then there will be Confucianism and engineering?" Cui Shanyu, you're my minister first, then you're a disciple of Confucianism. If there comes a day when the Tang Dynasty is weak and falls into the hands of other races, where can Confucianism spread? Don't tell me you want us to be the dogs of other races that enslave us Han people. These familiar words were basically used by Li Er to reprimand Di Xiaoshu yesterday. Today, Di Xiaoshu did not come because Li Er punished him to reflect on his mistakes in isolation for a month. Otherwise, old man Di would definitely find it very familiar. This old minister does not dare. Di Xiaoshu might have heard these words, but Cui Shanyu had not. All the ministers in the court had not heard of it either. Therefore, when Li Er said these harsh words, the entire court was so silent that one could hear a pin drop. Cui Shanyu was sweating profusely as he bowed and asked for forgiveness. This subject is terrified. The other ministers also cupped their hands and said. Li Er snorted and waved his sleeves, saying, "I've decided. Chengqian will prepare to supervise Yanhuang College starting tomorrow and return to court in a month. This subject obeys the decree." Li Chengqian bowed and said, "Dear ministers, if you have something to report, court is dismissed." Li Er said coldly. Everyone saw that he was unhappy. Moreover, in today's morning court, the head of the civil officials, Zhang Sun Wuji, Fang Xianling, Du Ruhui, and the others did not say anything. They did not dare to persuade him any more and could only give up. Court is dismissed. Seeing this, the eunuch holding the brush sensibly called out. All the ministers bowed and saluted. Li Er waved his hand and turned to leave. Chapter 679. The news of Li Er allowing Li Chengqian to stay in Yanhuang College for a month caused quite a stir among the upper echelons of Tang Dynasty. After all, the crown prince was the heir to the throne. His actions would directly affect the future direction of the empire. Didn't they, as officials, want to confer titles to their wives and children to ensure that their families would continue to prosper? If they couldn't grasp the thoughts of the emperor and grasp the future direction of the imperial court, then their families might fall behind or even be pushed out of the imperial court. Thus, after the morning assembly, many people gathered at Zhang Sun Wuji's house. Old Master, Assistant Minister He from the Ministry of Personnel, Assistant Minister Yuan from the Ministry of Civil Affairs, Junior Supervisor Huang from the Ministry of Secretaries, and Assistant Minister Zhang from the Taifu Temple are outside the residence seeking an audience. In the Duke Zhao residence, a middle-aged man who looked like a servant came to the study and reported with a bow. Zhang Sun Wuji frowned. After pondering for a moment, he said, "Don't see them. Tell them that I'm tired and ask them to return to their own duties. Don't let down the Emperor's trust in them, and don't become the Emperor's stumbling block." "Yes, old master." The servant bowed and received the order before slowly retreating. "Father, why did you?" After the servant left, Zhang Sun Chong couldn't help but ask. Zhang Sun Wuji waved his hand and interrupted. "You don't have to care about this. Chong, let father ask you, how do you feel about the Yanhuang College examination this time? Do you have the confidence to pass?" Zhang Sun Chong was taken aback. With an embarrassed expression, he said weakly, "Father, I'm confident that I can get full marks for this examination. However, I'm not sure about the moral character test and mathematics test. Now, I don't know the correct answer, so I don't dare to say that I have the confidence to pass the examination to Yanhuang College." Moral character test? This was something that was mentioned on De Tang daily before. Thus, Zhang Sun Wuji had some impression of it. He frowned and said, "What's there to be uncertain about? Don't tell me you're afraid that Li Zixuan won't be able to pass with your character? Tell father, what questions are there?" "Yes, father." Zhang Sun Chong made a sound of agreement. Then he recalled a little and said, "I remember that the moral character test questions said that there was no right or wrong, good or bad choices in all the questions. Please choose according to your own real situation. Even so, I had my doubts at the time. The first question should be like this: which city do you think you would prefer to live in? A. Cheongzhou B. Xiangzhou C. Bingzhou D. Luoyang E. Chang'an." Zhang Sun Wuji's frown deepened. Even though he was well versed in history and had read through all the weird questions in the various dynasties, he had never seen such a weird question before. "Chonger, what did you choose?" After pondering for a moment, Zhang Sun Wuji asked. "I've lived in Chang'an since I was young. Of course, I'd choose Chang'an," Zhang Sun Chong said matter-of-factly. Zhang Sun Wuji. "Then tell me about the second question." Zhang Sun Chong nodded and said, "The second question is, if you could become one of the following creatures, which one would you like to be? A. Cat B. Horse C. Elephant D. Monkey E. Dog F. Tiger." Back then, I chose tiger because the first few choices were too unbearable. Zhang Sun Wuji was enlightened and said, "I understand now. That question said that all the choices are not good or bad, right or wrong. It's all bullsh**. Li Zixuan, this brat, is brilliant. He's testing your hearts. He wants all of you to put down your guard so that you can show your truest side to him. Then, he can choose the person he wants from among you. I've underestimated this person." SSSS. "Then, father, is there any problem with my choice?" Hearing how terrifying his father's words were, Zhang Sun Chong took in a deep breath of cold air and quickly asked. Zhang Sun Wuji shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Based on your nature, it's definitely not a problem for you to pass this moral test. I'm just a little surprised. Li Zixuan's temperament, methods, martial arts, and abilities are all the most outstanding in your generation. Such a person, you can either be friends with him or be enemies with him. Then, you must get rid of him as soon as possible. Otherwise, when I'm old, which one of you can be his opponent?" Zhang Sun Chong's heart trembled. He quickly lowered his head and didn't dare to say another word. Suddenly, Zhang Sun Wuji smiled and said, "I didn't say that I have to be enemies with him. Chong, when you go to Yanhuang College, see if you can get along well with him. It'll be good if you can, but it's fine if you can't. Our Zhang Sun family has no reason to be afraid of him. It's just that the current emperor's thoughts are always on that kid." Now that times have changed, it might not be a bad thing for you to get in touch with engineering. Besides, the Crown Prince and Prince Wei are also in Yanhuang College. Zhang Sun Chong clasped his hands and said, "Yes, father. I understand." "And go and do your work," Zhang Sun Wuji said indifferently. Zhang Sun Chong responded and left the study room, leaving Zhang Sun Wuji alone with his eyes closed. To a certain extent, Zhang Sun Wuji was definitely not a defender of Confucianism. He only cared about his own interest. As for which school was the orthodox, he didn't care at all. He was a pure egoist. Thus, when he noticed that Li Er had the intention to raise the status of engineering and Yanhuang College, Zhang Sun Wuji didn't hesitate to throw out his olive branch and send his son to Yanhuang College. This was the foresight of an old fox. When the other court officials reacted, Zhang Sun Wuji had already walked further and further away from the path of treason. Furthermore, he benefited greatly from it. He would forever be the man who ate the fish head and body. As for the fish tail, it was naturally left for those short-sighted people to eat. "Brother Crown Prince, I heard that you are also going to Yanhuang College? Eastern Palace." Li Chengqian had just returned from the morning assembly and rested for a short while when Chang'e came to his door and asked, "Yo, Chang'e, when did you start to care about court politics? You got the news so quickly?" Li Chengqian couldn't help but rub his sister's head and laugh. Chang'e slapped Li Chengqian's hand away and said unhappily, "Chang'e doesn't care about court politics. That's your men's business. I only heard that Brother Crown Prince is also going to Yanhuang College, so I came to ask." "Oh." Li Chengqian replied with an "oh." Then, he smiled and explained, "You can't say that I'm going to Yanhuang College. After all, I have to return to the palace in a month. I can't stay in Yanhuang College forever like Qinke." "So that's the case." Chang'e suddenly understood. Then, the little girl said with some worry, "But if that's the case, Chang'e will be left alone in the palace. It's so boring." P.S. Not included in total word count. Looking for subscriptions, looking for monthly votes. My brothers all said that the updates these 2 days weren't good. Actually, the subscriptions are the worst. Looking at the rapid drop in subscriptions every day, it's already not easy for swordsmen to still be able to update 3 or 4 times a day. In the past, they would always update 2 times a day. So, friends who read pirated versions, please come back and subscribe. It's just a few cents. Everyone's support is the motivation for swordsmen to work hard to update. Thank you. Chapter 680. In the East Palace. Li Chengqian couldn't bear to see Chang'e's pitiful look. Besides, what she said was indeed reasonable. Now that he, Li Tai, and Li Ku had all gone to Yanhuang College, there were basically no people of the same age who could play with Chang'e in the palace. So he thought for a while and said, "Yanhuang Academy will have a military training next month. Father must like it very much. Chang'e, you can ask father to take you along to have fun. Won't that be enough?" Hearing this, Chang'e's eyes suddenly curved into small crescents. She nodded happily and said, "Yes, yes, thank you, Brother Crown Prince." After saying that, the little girl turned and left. Li Chengqian looked at Chang'e's back and pinched his chin thoughtfully. Crown Prince is going to live in Yanhuang College? In the D Mansion. It was almost noon when Di Xiaoxiu, who was thinking about his mistakes behind closed doors at home, received the news. He muttered to himself alone under the pavilion in the courtyard. It's getting harder and harder to guess His Majesty's thoughts now. If Crown Prince really goes to Yanhuang College, then the status of engineering and Yanhuang College. Thinking of this, Di Xiaoxiu ordered in a low voice, "Let Jixuan come here." "Yes, master." The servant next to him hurriedly bowed and received the order. About a quarter of an hour later, Di Jixuan came over sleepily. "Oh, father, I heard that you called me?" Di Jixuan said listlessly. Di Xiaoxiu, who was about to get down to business, couldn't help but frown when he saw his son like this. He said, "What time is it now? Did you just get up?" Anyway, he had just been beaten up yesterday, so now Dijishuan was even more thick-skinned. He looked like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water and said, "Father, you don't let me go out. What can I do now except sleep at home?" He had planned to go to Yanhuang College tomorrow to see the results, but Di Xiaoxiu had just been grounded by Li Er yesterday. After knowing that this bastard of a son still had such thoughts, he immediately added 2 more days of confinement to Di Jishuan. Of course, this wasn't the only reason why he woke up so late. It was because he had stayed up all night reading novels. Di Jishuan had been preparing for the exam of Yanhuang College for the past 2 months, so he had put aside the Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality that he had been reading. After the exam yesterday, of course, he would take out the mortal that he had been keeping for so long and continue reading. In the end, Di Jishuan was completely dumbfounded when he saw it. F***ck, what the hell is with 15 pages of mortal in every issue of the newspaper? Is this Leather Knight crazy? He then glanced at the other issues of the newspaper. In the end, each issue had 15 chapters. After more than 2 months, he had accumulated nearly 1,000 chapters. 1,000 chapters. At that moment, Di Jishuan felt that he was going crazy. He was so happy that he even forgot that he had been beaten up. He immediately immersed himself in the world of mortals. The candlelight in the side room of the rear courtyard of the Di residence had been lit for the entire night. It wasn't that Di Jishuan didn't want to sleep. He was also sleepy. However, mortals was getting more and more exciting as it went on. He couldn't bear to sleep at all. It wasn't until dawn that he couldn't take it anymore and fell into a deep sleep. Even so, Di Jishuan still had more than 800 chapters to read. Don't compare the speed of most modern people to the ancients. Modern ebooks turn pages very quickly. The ancients definitely couldn't compare with the speed of reading. At this moment, when he heard Di Jishuan's words, Di Xiaoxiu was suddenly speechless. He pointed at his unfilial son and was so angry that he couldn't say a word for a long time. After a while, old man Di calmed down and directly talked about business. "I called you here to ask you if you really don't have the confidence to get into Yanhuang College?" Di Jishuan was stunned and thought, "Why is it this question again? Could it be that my father wants to find an excuse to beat me up again? I won't give him a chance. Father, I was afraid that you would be angry yesterday, so I deliberately said that I didn't do well in the exam. Actually, I did quite well this time." Di Jishuan was thinking that he was beaten up yesterday when he said that he didn't do well in the exam. So, if he said that he did well today, he wouldn't be beaten up, right? If he was beaten up again, then he could only say that his father was deliberately targeting him. "What? You said that you did well in the exam this time? That means that you are very likely to get into Yanhuang College?" Di Xiaoxiu's expression changed drastically when he heard this. It wasn't that he became gloomy, but that he became extremely complicated. There was shock, excitement, and even a trace of fear. Anyway, as long as Di Jishuan could remember, he had never seen his father show so many expressions on his face at the same time. "Yes. Father, what's wrong?" Di Jishuan took 2 steps back and kept a safe distance from Di Xiaoxiu. Then, he asked in confusion, "Phew. Sooner. Well, I shouldn't have punished you yesterday. Since you are now confident that you can get into Yanhuang College, then you should prepare well." Di Xiaoxiu's expression changed. In the end, he became a kind and gentle father as he smiled gently at Di Jishuan. However, this sooner scared Di Jishuan quite a bit. He shook his head and secretly pinched his thigh. After confirming that he wasn't in a dream, Di Jishuan asked in confusion, "Father, what do you want me to prepare?" Di Xiaoxiu, "Prepare to enter the college, of course." Di Jishuan widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "Father, didn't you say that you didn't want me to go to Yanhuang College?" Di Xiaoshu's face immediately became a little unnatural. He stroked his beard and said, "Father has thought it through. Since Suner wants to go to Yanhuang College so much, Father will fulfill your wish. It's not impossible for you to study mathematics and become an official in the future." Di Jishuan turned around and looked at the sun in the sky. Di Xiaoshu was puzzled and asked, "Suner, what are you looking at?" Di Jishuan swallowed and said, "I've already confirmed that I'm not dreaming, so I want to see if the sun rises from the west today." Di Xiaoshu was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. He almost scolded him as an unfilial son again, but he forced himself not to say those 2 words. Di Jishuan said awkwardly, "Cough, cough, cough. Father, don't be angry. I'm just joking." Di Xiaoshu glared at his son. Suddenly, he remembered something and said quickly, "Oh, right, Suner. Don't tell anyone about the punishment I gave you yesterday. This old man will tell the servants later. Do you understand?" Why? Di Jishuan naturally wouldn't tell anyone about this embarrassing incident, but he was still a little curious as to why his father would specifically tell him about it. Di Xiaoshu pursed his lips and pondered for a while. Then, he said, "Don't wash your dirty linen in public." Chapter 681. Yanhuang College, noon. Mr. Yen, how's the progress of grading the various departments' papers? Can you finish all of them before nightfall? In the conference room, Li Zixuan asked while eating. He had long forgotten about not talking while eating and sleeping. "Oh, probably less than 50%. I think I can finish it before nightfall if I hurry up." Yen Silla was not as rude as Li Zixuan. After swallowing the food in his mouth, he spoke unhurriedly. The busiest people in the morning were Li Zixuan, Li Gang, Yen Silu, Su Hongji, Xiao Dian, and Mo Huai, who were eating in the conference room. Not only did they have to grade the papers themselves, but they also had to do a good job of coordinating and directing in order to maximize efficiency. They could not even spare time for lunch. It was Mo Zhong and Mo Yun who helped them bring the food back from the cafeteria. However, Li Zixuan was a little too much. The food he ate was specially cooked for him by Han Yushi. Naturally, it was not comparable to the big pot of rice in the cafeteria. The tempting color and rich aroma made even Li Gang unable to resist picking up a few pieces with his chopstick. "Well, this speed is not good. Not only do we have to finish grading the papers today, but we also have to tally all the students' results. Then, the workshop can rush the list overnight. How about this? I'll hurry up in the afternoon. Mr. Yen, take a look at which department has the most papers backlogged. When the time comes, you can send some of them to me." Li Zixuan thought about it and felt that it was still too slow. Thus, he said to Yen Silu. Obviously, this guy was ready to cheat. He spent most of the morning assigning tasks to the various departments. But now, he felt that it would be better to hand over the command to Li Gang and Yen Silu, and go down to the underground to cheat himself. With his speed, he could do the work of 10 people. Yen Silu was silent for a moment and finally nodded. "Okay. Haha. I'm old. I'm not as energetic as a young man like you. But don't force yourself, your health is the most important." At this moment, Li Gang said with a smile. Li Zixuan nodded. "Don't worry, Mr. Li. I know what I'm doing." What? The Crown Prince is also coming to Yanhuang College? After lunch, Li Zixuan didn't take a break. He went back to his office with the stack of test papers that Yen Silla gave him. As for why he didn't grade with the other teachers, it was entirely because he was afraid that his abnormal grading speed would frighten others. After a while, Pang Feiji walked in quietly and told him a very important piece of news. "Yes, Lord Ju. This happened in the morning court. Anyone in Chang, and who is slightly well-informed knows about it." Pang Feiji bowed and replied. Li Zixuan stopped writing and frowned. After a while he said, Okay, I got it. Feiji, you can go and do your work. This subordinate will take his leave. Pang Feiji cupped his hands and slowly left. In the office, Li Zixuan rubbed his head. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or sad. He muttered, "The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind won't stop. Is Old Li helping me, or is he purposely causing trouble? How are you? Are you confident about this exam? I heard that Yanwang College had more than 2,000 examinees taking the exam yesterday." South of Chang and City Gi Lane, Meng family's courtyard. Mother Meng saw that Meng Wenhao didn't seem worried at all. He was even helping Yaya modify the scooter that they bought from the workshop. She couldn't help but ask. Meng Wenhao patted his little sister's head, then turned to his mother and said, "Mother, I've never worried about whether or not I can pass the exam. I'm only thinking about my ranking this time. Although there were a lot of examinees yesterday, the questions set by Mr. Meng gave me a huge advantage. Mother, you don't have to worry anymore." Meng Wenhao had been working as an accountant for more than a month at Minister Hu's house. He had earned a lot of money, so the Meng family situation had improved a lot. That was why Yaya had a scooter to play with. However, because of Hu Qingwan, Meng Wenhao still persuaded his mother, who had been working at Minister Hu's house, to leave the Hu family. In his opinion, since he wasn't interested in Hu Qingwan, he shouldn't provoke her and cause her to think about him. In the end, it would be even more hurtful to her. "But how you didn't have much time to revise for the past 2 months. Now that you've left the Imperial College, if you still can't get into Yanwang College, then you'll have no way out?" As the saying goes, one's mind is clouded by concern. Thinking of Meng Wenhao's previous revision time and current situation, Mother Meng was still very worried. Meng Wenhao smiled slightly and very patiently comforted her. "Mother, although I worked at Minister Hu's house for more than a month and helped out at the college for more than 10 days, I didn't fall behind in my homework. You don't have to worry anymore. Tomorrow, the college will release the result. Just wait and see. Your son will definitely win glory for you and father." Mother Meng calmed down a lot when she saw her son being so confident. She smiled and said, "As long as you can get in, it's fine. At first, I thought that Yanwang College was a rundown college that no one wanted to go to. I didn't expect it to be so popular today. Not only did all the scholars in the Tang Dynasty come, but I also heard that the sons of Wei Wang, Han Wang, Duke Zhao, and Master Fang all went to take the exam yesterday. My Hauer has good taste." Meng Wenhao heard this and laughed. "Mother, you don't have to believe me, but you can't not believe Mr. Li. He has always been a person who is good at creating miracles." Mother Meng thought seriously and said after a while, "That's true. Mr. Li is really an amazing person. Brother is also amazing. Brother is the best." Yaya, who was next to Meng Wenhao, laughed happily. "Haha. Our Yaya is also very good." Meng Wenhao couldn't help but pinch his sister's face and smile knowingly. The results of Yanwang College's entrance exam this time could be said to be highly anticipated. After the exam yesterday, the examinees from all over the country went to Ping Kong Lane to indulge themselves. Naturally, it was inevitable that they would hear from the brothel girls about this year's August 15th, when there was a full moon night and thousands of girls in Ping Kong Lane were chasing the heavenly fairy. As a result, many scholars worshipped the legendary Yamacho of Yanwang College and looked forward to the release of the results of Yanwang College tomorrow. The most direct manifestation of this was that the streets, restaurants, and tea-houses of Chang'an were all talking about yesterday's exam. Many people were arguing endlessly about the answers to some of the exam questions. It was very lively. Chapter 682. Yanwang College, which was the center of the topic, was busy at the moment. Mo Zhong and Mo Yun had been going in and out of Li Zixuan's office several times. One of the brothers specifically went downstairs to help Li Zixuan pick up the test papers, while the other went upstairs to take down the test papers that Li Zixuan had already marked. With such speed, Yan Silu, Li Gang, and the others had already been shocked to the point of numbness. At first, they did suspect that Li Zixuan's speed was so fast that there must be a lot of mistakes. But after Li Gang and Yan Silu jointly checked more than a dozen test papers and didn't find a single mistake, they were completely convinced. They could only classify Li Zixuan as an inhuman. After the other teachers of the various departments heard the news, their admiration for Li Zixuan couldn't be any higher. At 3:30 in the afternoon, Li Zixuan finished marking the test papers on his desk, but Mo Zhong didn't send in any new test papers. He couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" Mo Zhong smiled and said, "Yamacho, Mr. Li Gang said that all the test papers have been marked. He said that if you're done here, please go down and count the results together." Li Zixuan said in surprise, "Finish so soon? Okay, I'll go down now." After saying that, he tidied up the test papers. Mo Zhong was very perceptive and came over to help take them away, evil bureaucracy, and the few of them went downstairs. Remove the name stickers and let the teachers of the various departments start counting the scores. Remember to bring the exam number of each student. After counting, send it to the mathematics department and let the teachers convert the total score of each student into a 100-point system according to the proportion of each subject's score. Finally, send the final result to me. After going downstairs and making sure that all the test papers had been marked, Li Zixuan ordered. There were more than 2,000 students participating in the entrance exam this time, and it was inevitable that there would be many people with the same name. At this time, many people began to admire Li Zixuan's exam number system. Otherwise, it would be a mess now. Okay. This won't take much time," Yan Silla said with a smile. Li Zixuan felt that there was no need for him to help with such a small and delicate task, so he took the opportunity to go out and get some fresh air. The previous heavy workload made him feel a little tired. There were still too few talents in the academy. "Yamacho, the scores of all the students have been tabulated." 2 hours later, Mo Zhong came over and said in a low voice, "I'll go and take a look." Li Zixuan nodded lightly and walked towards Guanghua Building. When Li Zixuan was still a dozen steps away from the conference room, he heard Li Gang's laughter. "I didn't expect this batch of students to achieve such results with only 2 months of preparation time. It's really unexpected," Yan Silu agreed. "Yeah. And what's even more shocking is that 21 of the top 50 students are actually from Yamacho's School of Mathematics. That's terrifying. Haha. This is in the information I have. After all, mathematics takes up as much as 50% of the questions in this entrance exam." This was Su Hongji's voice. "Hey, I guess Yamacho didn't expect that one of the top 3 students isn't from the School of Mathematics, right?" Li Zixuan's heart skipped a beat when he heard Wang Ji's last sentence. He quickened his pace and walked in. "Who is it? Let me see who's in the top 3. Before Li Zixuan had even entered the room, his voice had already reached them. Li Zixuan's anxious voice had already reached them. Under his tutelage, many mathematics experts emerged from the previous students of the School of Mathematics. Therefore, Li Zixuan was not too surprised that the former students of the School of Mathematics could enter the top 3. What really surprised him was that there were actually others who could break through and squeeze into the top 3. This was somewhat inconceivable. "Yamacho is here." Everyone heard and hurriedly made a path. Li Zixuan realized that the originally spacious conference room was actually so crowded. It turned out that more than 70 teachers were all here. "Where are the students' results? Let me see." Li Zixuan didn't reprimand these teachers for leaving their posts because they didn't have anything important to do at this time. He just asked lightly, "It's here. Yamacho, take a look." This old man will guarantee that you'll be shocked after you read it. Yen Silo handed over a small booklet with a smile. Li Zishuan took it and flipped through it. His pupils suddenly shrank and he said in surprise, Who is this person? Hurry up and get this person's student record. Early the next morning, as soon as the city gates opened, some scholars went out of the city and went straight to Yanhuang College. Obviously, they were going to look at the result. Originally, the results were said to be released at 7:45 a.m., 8 a.m., so it was useless for them to come so early. They could only wait at the entrance of the college. However, some people were really willing to wait. They liked the feeling of being the first to witness the result. It was just like when countless examinees sat in front of the computer and refreshed the web page over and over again before the results of the modern college entrance examination were released. Feichen, why did you ask us to come so early? Yanhuang College's gates aren't even open yet. The Jinyu trio was also one of the early teams. Chen Tianhua looked at the situation and was immediately dissatisfied. Aren't I afraid that the college will release the results early? Since we're already here, there's no harm in waiting here. And Tianhua, even if you don't come now, you probably won't be able to sleep at home. Don't you think so? Liao Feichen said embarrassedly. Qin Tianhua said unhappily, What do you mean I won't be able to sleep? I think you're the one who can't sleep. Why did you have to drag me and Hong Yi along with you to go crazy? Hua Hongyi waved his folding fan and smiled elegantly. Since we're already here, what's the point of saying more? The scenery on Yunshan is unique. The three of us sitting here and discussing the Tao is also a beautiful thing. Chen Tianhua and Liao Feichen were speechless. Who would want to discuss the Tao with Hua Hongyi at this time? No, I say, Aku, there's still an hour before the results are released. Why are we in such a hurry? Yunshan was packed with people, so the path to Yunshan was naturally congested. Smart people would not choose to ride a carriage, so the two princes, Li Tai and Li Ku, each rode a light horse and rushed towards Yunshan. On the way, Li Tai could feel that the horse under him was about to collapse. He couldn't help but complain to Li Ku. Li Ku said, Tai, we have to hurry. Think about it, there are more than 2,000 candidates this time. If we don't go early, how can we see the rankings later? And didn't you say before that the Yamacho doesn't like us using our identities to cut the queue? How can we not run faster? Li Tai didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He said, Then can't we send 2 guards to help us see? Yes, this is the result of my 2 months of hard work. I want to see the results with my own eyes. Chapter 683. F***CK. There are so many people? After ascending the cloud mountain, Li Tai, who thought he had arrived early, was dumbfounded when he saw the crowd in front of the academy. Among the crowd, there were students who came to take the exam the day before, students' family members, and some who came to watch the fun. The latter made up a significant portion of the crowd. Li Ku said gloomily, How is it? Aku? Did I hit the nail on the head? We won't be able to squeeze in later. No one would have thought that the dignified King of Wei and King of Han would be stuck outside because of the crowd. If news of this got out, it would probably shock everyone. What's the use of complaining now? Let's think of a way to get in first. Li Tai said as he tiptoed to look ahead. Suddenly, his eyes lit up and he shouted, Aku! Sun Ziffin, Iron Egg, and the others are in front. Let's go to them. Hurry up and follow. With that said, the humanoid titan took the lead and cleared a bloody path for Li Ku. Tai, wait for me. Li Ku came to his senses and hurried to follow. Brother! There are so many people, how are we going to squeeze in? Meng Wenhao was also here to look at the results today, and his little sister, Yaya, also came with him. Looking at the sea of people in front of them, Yaya wrinkled her little nose and looked up. Meng Wenhao thought for a moment and said, Then let's wait for them to finish before we look. When the gates of the academy open, brother will bring Yaya to other places in the academy to play, okay? If he had come alone, he definitely would not have had too many misgivings. However, in the current situation, Meng Wenhao was afraid that these people would go crazy and squeeze Yaya until she got hurt. Therefore, after thinking about it, he decided to let it go. After all, he was not worried about his results at all. Yes. Okay. This academy is so beautiful, Yaya wants to go in and take a look. Yaya was simple-minded and didn't think too much. The little girl looked at the magnificent Yanhuang College and shouted excitedly. Yamacho, the list has been hung. Do you want to let the students in? In the meeting room of Guanghua Building, Mo Zhong walked in and bowed slightly to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan asked casually, "Well, what time is it now?" There were no clocks in this era, so the only way to tell the time was by looking at the position of the sun. Li Zixuan said that he couldn't do it. It's about 4:45 in the morning. Mo Zhong said after some thought. Then let them come in. In addition, Mo Zhong, bring some people to the sports field in advance for the opening ceremony in the afternoon. Yes, Yamacho. Mo Zhong made a sound of agreement and retreated. Li Gang said, I saw that the students this time had good results, but Yamacho only accepted 640 of them. Why didn't you accept more? That's right. Wouldn't it be a pity to let so many outstanding students leave? Yen Silu chimed in. Li Zixuan tapped the table gently with his finger and said after a while, You don't know. The two of you may not know this, but although these students have less time to prepare, the overall difficulty of this exam is relatively low. 52 marks is already the limit I can tolerate. In my opinion, if they can't even get 52 marks, then I feel that they didn't prepare well or have no talent. It would be irresponsible to recruit them. Li Gang and Yen Silu were silent. It's open. It's open. It's finally open. Hey. Don't push me. Don't push me. I came first. At the entrance of the academy, just as everyone was chatting in full swing, the crowd saw two men in black walking towards the entrance. The crowd instantly became restless. Yamacho said don't push. Line up and come in one by one. Otherwise, they won't open the door today. Mo Zhong saw the momentum of the students outside, and he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. He quickly shouted. Needless to say, this roar was really useful at the critical moment. The crowd immediately quieted down, and they all began to line up. Only then did Mo Zhong open the academy's gates, and the students filed in order. Where's the list? Where is it? It's in front. It's so big. Are you blind? Hiss. So that's the list. I thought it was the red silk that Yanhuang College hung for today's opening ceremony. TSK. Ignorant. Damn. You're F***king knowledgeable. Why didn't you say so when you were outside the gate? The result list this time was made by the workshop with a giant red cloth. Because of its size, it could only be hung on the outer walls of the Guanghua building. At first, some candidates did see it through the cracks of the iron gate of the college, but they didn't think about it. After a while, the thousands of people arrived in front of the Guanghua building. Looking up at the giant honor list, everyone hurriedly tried to find their position on it. Oh my God! Atai, you're first place. First place among more than 2,000 candidates. That's amazing! Li Ku, Tai Dan, and Sun Zifan were standing at the front, and the list was as tall as a person, so it was easy for Li Ku to see the words on it. When he saw the name of the person who was ranked first, he was shocked. Oh my God! Chinke, you're amazing! Sun Zifan took a closer look and was immediately stunned. Hearing that, Li Tai looked at the list and saw that it said, Zhenguan First Year Autumn, Yanhuang College Entrance Exam Results List. First place Li Tai 100 points, second place Li Yen 98 points, third place Meng Wenhao 96 points, fourth place Jia Jiayin 93 points, Fifth place Kushurqing 90 points. The moment he saw that he was first place, Li Tai was indeed very happy. However, when he saw the next few rankings, he couldn't help but exclaim, "Who is this Li Yan?" He squeezed out Meng Wenhao and jumped to second place. Li Tai undoubtedly had a unique advantage in this exam. First of all, he was extremely intelligent since he was young. Being in the royal family, there was no lack of famous teachers teaching him, so his knowledge of classics was naturally outstanding. Secondly, he was very interested in new mathematics. When he was in the mathematics school, his results had always been one of the best. Therefore, it was completely reasonable that he could get first place this time. In contrast, Meng Wenhao's overall score might not be as good as his because he was slightly inferior in the study of classics. But in any case, Li Tai didn't expect that there would be someone he didn't know who could squeeze out Meng Wenhao. This was unbelievable. Tai, I remember that the Imperial Father just appointed Li Chunfeng to the Imperial Historian Bureau this year. His son is called Li Yan. Chapter 684. Haha. I'm in the 351st place. Ha. I'm in the 250th place too. I'm in the 250th place. Yanhuang College, in front of Guanghua Building. Regardless of whether the results were good or bad, the examinees were generally happy. Those who didn't find their names naturally kept their mouths shut and stared at the huge list with shining eyes. Hey, Iron Egg, I didn't expect our scores to be the same. It seems that I've improved during this time. Sun Zifen pointed to the middle of the list and smiled proudly at Iron Egg. When he was in the mathematics school, Iron Egg's results were always in the top 5 even though he wasn't in the first place. Sun Zifen, on the other hand, was always in the lower middle. Now that he finally touched Iron Egg's, but how could he not be proud? Iron Egg pursed his lips and stared at the 2 rows of words on the list. 280th place, Iron Egg, 70 points. 281st place, Sun Zifen, 70 points. After staring for a while, he said in a muffled voice, "Brother Zifen, you've improved very quickly. Congratulations." Seeing Iron Egg's sullen face, Sun Zifen coughed twice, wiped away his smile, and asked in a low voice, "Iron Egg, what's wrong with you this time? With your level, this shouldn't be happening." Iron Egg said gloomily, "I don't know how to study Confucian classics, so I didn't get a single point out of the 30%. Didn't get a single point? Does that mean he got full marks in the other parts? What the F***ck? I shouldn't have asked that." Sun Zifen opened his mouth, and suddenly felt like he was hit by 10,000 points of critical hit. Brother Iron Egg, I got into 619th place. Hu Qian looked away from the list and said excitedly to Iron Egg, "Heh, she really passed the exam? That's great. I didn't expect you to be able to get into Yanhuang College at the age of 7. Uncle Hu must be overjoyed." Iron Egg subconsciously glanced at the bottom of the list. When he saw Hu Guoji's name on it, he patted her shoulder and said happily, Yes, not only will my parents be happy, but my sister will also be happy if she knows." Sun Zifen's eyes lit up. "Your sister? As expected, you have an elder sister? Scram. Zifen, don't go too far." Iron Egg kicked Sun Zifen and roared angrily. "Hey! This young master really got it, and I'm ranked 18th in the total score. Awesome! Now I have a way to report to Dad." In a corner, Di Jishuan looked into the distance and found his name on the 18th place. He couldn't help but be overjoyed at the thought of being able to study in such an amazing college in the future. At this moment, he was extremely grateful to Li Zishuan. "Although I can still get into Yanhuang College even without the 10 points that Yamacho helped me cheat, my total score would only be 75 points, and my overall ranking would fall to the 200th place. TSK. I have to say, these 10 points are very important to me. I didn't embarrass Dad. Haha. Di Jishuan sighed inwardly, and then turned around to leave triumphantly. He had to go home and share this good news with his father. Besides, there were still 6 hours before the opening ceremony of Yanhuang College. Tianhua, I got in 380th place. How about you? Did you find your name? In the crowd, Liao Feichen's neck was sore from looking up. When he finally found his name on the list, he bumped Chen Tianhua's arm and said excitedly. Of course, he didn't mean anything by that. He just hoped that all 3 of them would be able to get into Yanhuang College so that they could take care of each other. Chen Tianhua smiled and said, Yeah, I got in too. I'm ranked 120. Wow. Tianhua, you're awesome. Awesome, awesome. Liao Feichen exclaimed. Chen Tianhua shook his head and looked at Hua Hongyi and said, Hongyi, how about you? I was so focused on finding my name that I didn't notice you. Hua Hongyi waved his folding fan and smiled. I got in too. Haha. Now, the 3 of us can finally reunite at Yanhuang College. When the other 2 heard that, they were overjoyed. Liao Feichen asked curiously, Hongyi, what's your rank? Quick, tell us. Looking at this guy's attitude, it seemed like he wanted to compete with Hua Hongyi. Hua Hongyi pointed at a position in front of the list and said, I'm only ranked 58th. Liao Feichen. After being speechless for a while, he roared, Get lost. You have to treat me to lunch. Hee. Okay. I'll treat you. But I'm embarrassed. How about you lend me 2 strings of money? Forget it. Let's go to the villager's house for lunch. Brother Yanfu, you actually got 40th place. Awesome, awesome. Zhang Sun Chong, Fang Yizhi, Chu Yanfu, and Yuan Shua gathered at the front of the group. Yuan Shua pointed at the list and smiled. Chu Yanfu shook his head, seemingly unsatisfied with the result. Yuan Shua, you're not bad either. 102nd place. At least we're not rejected by Yanhuang College. Zhang Sun Chong smiled. Yanfu, you're so humble. Among the 4 of us, I'm 89th place, and Yizhi is 72nd place. You're the only one in front. You definitely won't be able to escape from lunch. Let's go to Zuaxian restaurant. Fang Yizhi smiled and didn't join in. Chu Yanfu didn't refuse. He thought for a while and said, Fine, Zuaxian restaurant it is. But first, I have to order the food. Zhang Sun Chong laughed and scolded, Screw you, you're so stingy. On the other side, Meng Wenhao brought Yaya to various buildings in Yanhuang College. Then, thinking that there should be fewer candidates looking at the list, he pulled Yaya and moved closer to Guanghua restaurant. After a while, the brother and sister found a gap in the crowd. Then, Meng Wenhao began to look at the list. Naturally, he looked at it from the front. As expected, Qin Ke is first. Seeing that Li Tai was first, Meng Wenhao's face showed an expression of as expected. But when he saw that Li Tai was in second place, Meng Wenhao's face suddenly became very serious. Then, when he saw Jia Jiayin in fourth place, who was only 3 points behind him, he finally couldn't help but murmur, This exam is really full of experts. I underestimated the heroes of the world. Out of 2,000 candidates, 640 people were selected. Basically, all the talents in the world have entered Yanhuang. This is getting more and more interesting. Chapter 685. As time passed, more and more examinees checked their exam result. There were those who shouted excitedly, those who sighed, and those who were disheartened. There were some who were happy and some who were sad. Li Zishuan put his hands behind his back and looked at the large group of students of different ages from upstairs. He couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in his heart. It was recorded in the history books that when Li Er opened the imperial examination again, he saw the new examinees entering the palace. He couldn't help but laugh and say, All the heroes in the world are in my hands. He didn't know if Li Er had said this at this time, but now Li Zixuan really wanted to say, all the heroes in the world are in Yanhuang. The youngest of the students who entered Yanhuang College this time was only 6 years old, and the oldest was 26 years old. Of course, most of them were 14 or 15 years old. Thinking of the two children who were only 6 years old, Li Zixuan's cheeks couldn't help but twitch. He thought gloomily in his heart, are all the children in ancient times so monstrous? What was I doing when I was 6 years old? Playing with mud? Peeing against the wind? To be honest, forget about Li Yan. After all, he had an awesome father. But what was the background of this Jia Jiayin? How could he be ranked 4th at the age of 6? Alright, the uncultured Li Zixuan was a little confused. But in fact, this Jia Jiayin was quite famous in history. In the Tang Dynasty, a dynasty where there were many prodigies, Jia Jiayin definitely had his own place. According to the history books, when Jia Jiayin was 7 years old, his name as a prodigy had already spread. After Li Er heard about it, he specially set up a banquet in the palace to see him. At that time, Zhang Sun Wuji and Li Ji were also there. They saw that Jia Jiayin was young and looked down on him. Li Ji joked, "What tree did I rely on?" Jia Jiayin said, "Pine tree." Li Ji said, "This is a locust tree. How can you say it's a pine tree?" Jia Jiayin said, "Using a male tree to match a tree, how can you say it's not a pine tree?" Zhang Sun Wuji asked again, "What tree did I rely on?" Jia Jiayin said, "Locust tree." Zhang Sun Wuji said, "You're not going to correct it?" Jia Jiayin said, "There's no need to correct it. You just need to get a ghost-leaning tree." Hinting that Zhang Sun Wuji had ulterior motives for asking questions and was purposely making things difficult for him, when Jia Jiayin was 11 or 12 years old, he directly became a jinshi. However, although he was intelligent and eloquent, his appearance was ugly. He was once summoned to the imperial court and asked Li Er to personally decide whether he should stay or leave. In ancient times, if you want to be an official, you must have a good appearance. The ancient people were also members of the Appearance Association. At that time, the court officials all came to see him after the court session. Before anyone else could speak, Li Ji spoke first. "This child's face looks like a ferocious beast. How can he be smart?" Before the others could answer, Jia Jiayin responded, "Hu Tu is still the prime minister, why would Fang Xian waste his intelligence?" Insinuating that Li Ji looked like a Hu, but he was able to become the prime minister of the Han people. "Although I am a little ugly, why can't I be smart?" All the officials laughed, and Li Ji was so embarrassed that his face turned red. "Li Yan, Li Chunfeng. I didn't expect Li Chuanfeng's son to be so powerful. Does their family have a deep relationship with mathematics?" Although Li Zixuan didn't know Jia Jiayin, he certainly knew Li Chunfeng, the godlike man who co-authored the pushback chart with Yuan Tiangang. According to records, in order to calculate the fate of the Tang Empire, Li Shimin ordered two famous Taoist priests, Li Chunfeng and Yuan Tiangang, to calculate the fate of the Tang Empire. The pushback chart, that combined the study of astronomy, poetry, riddles, and pictures into one, was born. The pushback chart constructed the historical development trend of China and the world. Imperial era, Republican era, Great Unity era. It decreed to future generations that human history would eventually lead to no distinction between black and white, no distinction between north and south, no city and no government, no man and no self, and the world would be one, and all religions would return to one. This book was the most classic futuristic masterpiece in the history of China. Its meticulous creation, meticulous thinking, and miraculous fulfillment far surpassed Nostradamus's great prophecy, The Ages. It should be noted that the pushback chart was not made up by later generations. It was a great work on the study of all the pictures, prophecies, and poems in the book were based on the Book of Changes and could be found in the Book of Changes. Other than the pushback chart, Many people didn't know that Li Chunfeng was also very accomplished in astronomy, mathematics, and almanac. His contributions to mathematics were the most prominent. The 10 computational classics that he compiled and annotated became the textbook of mathematics in the Tang Dynasty and later Dynasty. If Li Zixuan didn't appear out of nowhere, Li Chunfeng would definitely be the founder of mathematics in the Tang Dynasty. I just don't know if Li Chunfeng can see that I'm a monster with his current level of attainment. Thinking of Li Chunfeng, Li Zixuan couldn't help but worry about whether his identity as a transmigrator would be recognized. After all, the push-back chart in the legends was just too magical. Oh. As expected, I didn't get first place. The descendants of dragons are indeed different. Father's divination skills are really amazing. When more than half of the crowd had dispersed, a 6 or 7-year-old boy wearing a loose green Taoist robe with a face full of childishness and baby fat finally squeezed to the front of the list. Compared to the people around him, the little boy could only reach the waist of others. At this moment, he raised his head and stared at the result list as he spoke softly. Yo, where did this little Taoist come from? He wants to get first place at such a young age. Haha. Coincidentally, there was an 11 or 12-year-old scholar with a mole on the right side of his face beside the little Taoist boy. He heard his soft voice and laughed. Hey, this little Taoist boy is quite handsome, but he's a little arrogant. What do you mean by a little arrogant? That's because he's ambitious. Ha! The scholar's loud laughter immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding people, causing them to burst into laughter. The little Taoist boy was not annoyed at all. He smiled and said calmly, "Ordinary people think that they're the pot calling the kettle black, but they don't know that I've already taken 10,000 steps forward." After that, he pushed through the crowd and left. Brother Fan, what does this little Taoist boy mean by that? Someone looked at the scholar with the mole on the face and asked. The scholar's face darkened and he said angrily, "This little bastard is talking about us who didn't get in. He's mocking him for getting in. Does that mean that the little Taoist really passed the exam?" The little Taoist boy walked out of the academy and turned around to look at the 2 towers in the center of Yanhuang College's Guanghua building. He muttered in a voice that only he could hear, "Father said that he's the chosen one of Taoism. I'll be able to see it with my own eyes in the future." Chapter 686. Taiji Palace. The morning court session was in full swing. At this moment, a small eunuch ran in and saw Li Er nod at him. He came to Li Er's side and whispered a few words. All the officials saw a smile on Li Er's face. Clearly, he was very happy now. After the eunuch left, the officials fell silent. Li Er stopped smiling and said seriously, "Everyone, please don't talk about the new mathematics. My dear officials, there is no need to discuss further. The convenience of the new mathematics is obvious to all. From today onwards, all schools in the various provinces and counties of the Great Tang Empire must start teaching the new mathematic. All officials in the various provinces and counties must also make time to study the new mathematics. Next, if you have something to report, you may leave. If not, the court session is dismissed." The officials looked at each other. "If you want to promote the new mathematics, then so be it. Why did you want to dismiss the morning court session so soon? What was the reason?" After waiting for a while, no one came forward to report anything. Li Er decisively dismissed the court session and hurriedly left. "Second brother, what do you think that little eunuch said to His Majesty to make him so happy?" On the bridge outside Taiji Palace, Cheng Yaojin asked Qin Xiong in a rough voice. Qin Xiong looked around and said, "Jijie, the emperor's heart is unpredictable. Don't make wild guesses in private." Cheng Yaojin pursed his lips and thought that Qin Xiong was getting more and more cautious. Suddenly, he remembered something and said excitedly, "Oh right, Yanhuang College will officially start school in the afternoon. I heard there's a ceremony. Second brother, are you going? Qin Qiong smiled and nodded. Of course I have to go and take a look. He hadn't forgotten that he was the head instructor of this batch of students in Yanhuang College. Of course, he had to go and see what kind of students he was going to train in the future. Qing Yaojin chuckled and said, then I'll go too. In the future, I'll have to help you train those kids. Qin Qiong didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't know if Qing Yaojin was here to help him or to train the students to relieve his boredom. I almost forgot. I don't know if my Chonyo got in this time. I heard there were more than 2,000 people who took the exam yesterday. When Qing Yaojin thought of Qing Chumo, he suddenly slapped his head and shouted. When Qin Qiong heard this, he subconsciously thought of Qin Huayu, but he wasn't worried about whether Qin Huayu could pass the exam. Jijie, didn't you inform little Xian last time? What's there to worry about now? Ah, that's right. Haha. Then I won't be worried anymore, haha. Let's go home. Qing Yaojin immediately felt relieved and laughed heartily. Li Jing Palace. Haha. Guanyin maid, let me tell you a piece of good news. Yang Fei is also here? Li Erlong strode to Empress Jiangxuan's residence. Just as he walked in, he saw Yang Fei talking and laughing with Empress Jiangxun. Greetings, Your Majesty. The two intellectual beauties bowed down and saluted Li Er. Don't stand on ceremony. Li Er laughed dryly and sat on the couch that the two of them had just sat on. Seeing this, Jiangxun smiled and said, What kind of good news makes Your Majesty so happy? Yang Fei also pursed her lips and looked at Li Er. Li Er's face was full of smiles as he said, I have just received news that Qinke has won first place in the examination of Yanhuang Academy. Although this is just an ordinary examination, the students who participated in it are more than 2,000 young talents from the 365 states and counties of the Tang Empire. I didn't expect Qinke to win first place. Empress Jiangxun was delighted when she heard this. Qinke is so amazing? Then, Your Majesty, how did Kuer do in the exam? Empress Jiangxun remembered that Yang Fei was still beside her, so she asked. When Yang Fei heard that Li Tai won first place, her face was also filled with joy. However, when she heard Empress Jiangxun ask about Li Ku's results, a trace of hope instantly appeared in her beautiful eyes. Li Er thought for a moment and said, I remember that Kuer got 15th place in the exam, which is also very good. My sons, no matter where they are outstanding. At the end, Li Er couldn't help but be smug. Empress Jiangxun and concubine Yang both broke into smiles. Oh, Chonyo, you're back? Come and tell this old man, how did you do in the exam? Today, after the morning court, Qing Yaojin returned home and practiced Tai Chi twice before he saw Qing Chumo coming back from outside. He wiped his sweat and hurriedly waved to Qing Chumo and asked. Qing Chumo seemed to be in a good mood. This was the first time he was in a good mood when being asked about his result. He laughed proudly and said, Dad, I've won glory for you this time. Guess what rank I got this time? Qing Yaojin slapped him. He glared and said, Guess my ass, I'm asking you, you brat, quickly answer truthfully. Qing Chumo, who was in a state of excitement, suddenly felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured on his heart. He rubbed the back of his head and said gloomily, Fine, I'll say it. Dad, why did you hit me? Seeing that Qing Yaojin was about to continue hitting him, he hurriedly said, I'll say it. Dad, I got 65 points this time and ranked 365. The Academy has admitted a total of 640 people this time. Dad, how is it? Am I very good? When old Qing heard this, he understood that his son had passed the exam with his own ability. He felt a burst of joy in his heart, but he said disdainfully, What's there to brag about with only 65 points? I, old Qing, have lost all my face because of you, brat. Hey no, Dad, be reasonable. There are more than 2,000 students taking the exam this time. Xiaoshuan's personal disciple, Iron Egg, only got 70 points. I'm not ashamed. Qing Chumo immediately complained. Moreover, this guy had obviously learned some buzzwords from Li Zishuan. His mouth was full of vulgarities. Qing Yaojin was stunned. Then, he restrained the disdain on his face and said, "Well, that's more like it. But you have to hurry up with your martial arts. I heard that Iron Egg is about to enter the tempered body stage. If he surpasses you by then, old Qing, can't afford to lose face." Qing Chumo replied sullenly, "Oh, I know." Qing Yaojin suddenly said happily, "Hey? If you don't hurry up, I'll personally go to Yanwang College this month to urge you. You must know that you have to train in the first month of school. Your Uncle Qin and I will be your instructors." Ha ha. Qing Chumo curled his lips indifferently and said, "There are so many weak scholars in the academy. They're not afraid, so why should I be afraid?" In this guy's mind, if you asked him to compete with others in learning, he might be scared, but it was a competition of training. He, Qing Chumo said that whoever wanted to compete with him, just bring it on. How could Qing Yaojin not know what his son was thinking? He turned around and flicked his sleeve. "When the time comes, you better not fall into my hand. Otherwise, I'll find a way to let you break through to the Qi stage within a month." As for this find a way, what could there be? Wasn't it still to train desperately? Qing Chumo obviously wasn't stupid. When he heard this, he immediately jumped up and said, "Hey, Dad, am I really your biological son? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."